Chapter 964. As soon as Eugene finished speaking, the joy on Lu Hong's face suddenly froze. In the next second, Lu Hong's face suddenly turned gloomy. It was obvious that Lu Hong was unhappy now, and the reason was because of what Eugene had said. To be more precise, it didn't matter to Lu Hong how many people Yi Chen killed or how many countries he destroyed, but he couldn't allow him to kill the emperor of another country without permission. At first glance, it didn't make sense at all. After all, when Yi Chen destroyed Dongzhou in India, he also killed the emperors of these two countries. Lu Hong knew about it, but Lu Hong didn't react at all. But now, Lu Hong was furious. How could it make sense? But in fact, there was nothing unreasonable about it. Because before this, everyone was shocked that Yi Chen destroyed two countries and greatly increased the territory of the Great Han Empire. No one thought about it at all, not even Lu Hong. But now it was different. Eugene had entered the palace on crutches, and he even pointed it out. Under such circumstances, Lu Hong had to think more about it, even if he didn't want to. After all, Lu Hong was the emperor, and Yi Chen killed the emperor. Although the emperor was from another country, he was still the emperor. What if Yi Chen was unhappy one day and came back to chop off Lu Hong's head? This was the reason why Lu Hong's face changed so much. Zhang Rang, who was next to Lu Hong, saw Lu Hong's face suddenly change, and his face suddenly darkened. Then he looked straight at Eugene and shouted sternly, "How dare you, Eugene? How dare you frame a loyal person of the Great Han Empire? What are you up to? Your Majesty, I'm willing to guarantee with my head that you of Beach has no intention of rebellion." After Lu Ji heard Eugene's words, he was slightly stunned. Then he stepped out of the ranks and bowed to Lu Hong loudly. When Yuan Kuang, one of the three dukes, heard this, he immediately stepped forward and solemnly bowed to Lu Hong. "Your Majesty, although this old subject hasn't had much contact with you of Beach, this old subject understands one thing. Only those who are absolutely loyal to the Great Han and His Majesty will open up new territory for His Majesty. I implore Your Majesty to reconsider. Your Majesty, please calm down." The civil and military officials looked at each other, and then more than half of them stepped forward and bowed to Lu Hong. When Lu Hong saw this, most of the anger in his heart dissipated. At Lu Hong's side, Zhang Rang sighed in relief. After secretly sizing up all the officials, he turned to Lu Hong. But just when Zhang Rang was about to speak, Eugene bowed once more. "Your Majesty, although you of Beach has rendered meritorious service to the country, it is an indisputable fact that he killed the emperor. If this is not dealt with, I'm afraid that Your Majesty's prestige will be greatly damaged. I implore Your Majesty to reconsider." I implore Your Majesty to reconsider. When Eugene's officials heard this, they all looked at each other. Then, they gritted their teeth and stepped forward to bow to Lu Hong. When Lu Hong heard this, the anger that had just disappeared suddenly surged again. At this moment, the noble of the Polar Bear Empire, Jigger, suddenly looked at Lu Hong and kowtowed to Lu Hong. "Your Majesty, although the Emperor of the Polar Bear Empire is not as honorable as you, he is still the Emperor of the Polar Bear Empire. Even if you want to kill him, you should give the order. Moreover, the Emperor of the Polar Bear Empire came with sincerity. For this reason, he specially wrote a letter of credence and even wanted to gift the #1 beauty of the Polar Bear Empire, Princess Ashali, to you. However, Yu of Gojoseon ignored the Polar Bear Empire's willingness to submit and ignored the letter of credence we had prepared. Not only did he destroy the Polar Bear Empire, but he also killed our Emperor and Princess. Dare I ask Your Majesty, why is your subject so disrespectful to you?" "Shut up." When Zhang Rang heard this, his expression changed drastically. He then shouted at the noble of the Polar Bear Empire, Jigger. After Zhang Rang finished speaking, he hurriedly looked at Lu Hong and bowed to Lu Hong. "Your Majesty, you of Beach once told this servant that only Your Majesty can be called the Emperor in this world. Only you are the true Son of Heaven, and only you are worthy of being called the Emperor, loved and respected by all the people of the world." When Zhang Rang said this, He glared fiercely at the noble of the Polar Bear Empire and said seriously, "The emperors of the other kingdoms are all fake. If we don't kill them, we won't be able to correct the atmosphere, and if we don't kill them, we won't be able to understand the universe. Moreover, if we want to kill them, your majesty can't give the order, because that would be giving too much respect to those traitors who call themselves emperors in vain." When Lu Hong heard this, he was stunned. He then looked at Zhang Rang with a dumbfounded expression and asked, "Did you of Beach really say that?" When Zhang Rang heard this, he nodded with certainty, then bowed and said, "Yes. Your Majesty, this servant wouldn't dare lie. This servant dares to swear to the heavens that this was what Yi Yu of Gojoseon told this servant before he left for battle. However, this servant felt that this matter was too important, and this servant didn't think it would come true, so this servant didn't dare to tell your Majesty. But now it seems that this servant was wrong. Please punish me, your Majesty." When Lu Hong heard this, he couldn't help but laugh wildly at the sky and say, "What's wrong with letting your father do? Thank you, your Majesty, for your mercy." When Zhang Rang heard this, a vicious look flashed in his eyes, and he bowed to Lu Hong. When Lu Hong heard this, he laughed again and then looked at the noble of the Polar Bear Empire, Jigger, whose expression had changed greatly because of the conversation between Lu Hong and Zhang Rang. He shouted, "How dare you slander my son-in-law? Guards, drag him out and execute him with 1,000 cuts. Your Majesty, spare my life." When the noble of the Polar Bear Empire heard this, his face turned pale, and he hurriedly kowtowed. He just wanted to take revenge on Yi Chun, so he agreed with Yi Jin's words to further provoke Lu Hong. Who would have thought that? Not only did he fail to provoke Lu Hong, he would also be killed. Moreover, he would be executed by 1,000 cuts. He didn't want to die, so he begged for mercy. Unfortunately, it was useless. As soon as he cried out, 2 Imperial guards rushed into the hall. They grabbed Jigger from both sides and dragged him out of the hall. At this moment, Zhang Rang suddenly turned to Lu Hong and then bowed with a mournful expression. "Your Majesty, this servant would like to speak out on behalf of you of Beach." When Lu Hong heard this, he couldn't help but be taken aback. He then asked, "What do you mean, father?" When Lu Hong said this, Yi Jin's expression immediately changed. At this moment, Zhang Rang solemnly bowed to Lu Hong. "Your Majesty, Lord Yu of Beach went to war and risked his life. This should have been a matter worthy of praise and tears that should have been announced to the people of the world, so that all the people would know that the great Han Empire was at its zenith and that your Majesty was the #1 strategist in all of history." When Zhang Rang said this, Lu Hong immediately became enraptured. At this moment, Zhang Rang continued, "But in the end, some people didn't know how to congratulate your Majesty. It's one thing to congratulate the great Han, but they insisted on forcing Lord Yu of Beach into unrighteous and unjust places, and they even wanted to kill Lord Yu of Beach. This servant really couldn't stand it anymore." Chapter 965. Yi Jin paled at Zhang Rang's words, and he hastily turned to Lu Hong and bowed. "Your Majesty, this lowly subject can swear to the heavens that he had no intention of harming you of Beach." When Lu Hong heard this, his face, which had turned gloomy because of Zhang Rang's words, sank once again. He then looked at Yi Jin and shouted angrily. He angrily roared, "Yi Jin, you still dare to quibble." It was true that Lu Hong was a fatuous ruler, but no matter how fatuous and tyrannical Lu Hong was, he still knew a few things about right and wrong. But at this moment, Yi Jin was wrong and Yi Chen was right. This was Lu Hong's judgment. Although Zhang Rang had been guiding him, Lu Hong's view had already been formed, and it could not be changed so easily. It was precisely for this reason that Lu Hong was so angry. Thinking about it, Yi Chen was able to earn Lu Hong the title of Emperor of all ages, a title that would be passed down through the ages. Yet, Yi Jin wanted to destroy Yi Chen. Comparing the two, even a fool would know what was going on, let alone Lu Hong. Yi Jin trembled at Lu Hong's words, and then he hastily bowed. "Your Majesty, This lowly subject misunderstood you of Beech because Zhang Changshi did not announce you of Beech's words to the public. Your Majesty, please understand. Zhang Rang's expression darkened at He Jin's words. For a moment, Zhang Rang felt like he had shot himself in the foot. While Zhang Rang was frantically trying to think of a way to continue speaking so that He Jin would die without a grave, the officials in He Jin's faction glanced at each other, then hastily stepped forward and bowed to Lu Hong. Your Majesty, the great general's words are not false. We have never heard of Zhang Changshi's words. That is why we made such a wrong judgment. Please, Your Majesty. As soon as He Jin's officials finished speaking, Lu Hong's expression quickly returned to normal. However, the anger on his face had not completely disappeared. When Zhang Rang saw this, he glanced at the officials under He Jin, then bowed to Lu Hong. Your Majesty, I don't think it's important whether there was a misjudgment or not. What's important is that some people framed you of Beech. If it weren't for His Majesty's wisdom, I'm afraid that you of Beech would have been successfully framed. If that's the case, how will the Great Han Empire's territory continue to expand? How will Your Majesty's title of Emperor of all ages continue? As soon as Zhang Rang finished his words, the expressions of He Jin and the officials under him all changed. At this moment, whether it was He Jin or the officials under him, they all had a bad feeling in their hearts. This was because they all knew what Lu Hong, the Emperor of the Great Han Empire, liked to hear and wanted to obtain. As He Jin and the officials under him all paled, Wang Yun suddenly stepped forward and bowed to Lu Hong. Your Majesty, the country has its laws, and the clan has its rules. The great general did not violate any of the laws, so he cannot be punished. Wang Yun's words left He Jin dumbfounded, while Zhang Rang's expression darkened. As for Lu Hong, he frowned. At this moment, Wang Yun glanced at the surrounding officials, then turned to Lu Hong and continued to bow. But the great general's words did indeed frame you of Beech, so he cannot go unpunished. Otherwise, it would be unfair to you of Beech. Thus, this lowly subject suggests that Your Majesty punish the great general with some money so that he will remember today's matter, so that he won't do anything inappropriate in the future. Wang Yun's words caused He Jin's face to stiffen, while Zhang Rang was taken aback. As for Lu Hong, his eyes began to shine brightly. A second later, Lu Hong sternly looked at He Jin and shouted, Since Wang Yun has said this, I won't punish you. Since Wang Yun has pleaded on your behalf, we will not punish you excessively. He Jin, hand over 1,000,000 purple gold coins before tonight, and we will let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, we will severely punish you. Yes, Your Majesty. Hearing this, He Jin's face instantly turned pale. Then, he looked at Lu Hong with a sad face and bowed. At first glance, it didn't make sense for He Jin to have such an unsightly expression. After all, he was a great general and possessed immense wealth. There was no need for him to be so scared over 1,000,000 purple gold. But the truth? That wasn't the case at all. After all, before Yi Chun became you of Beech, He Jin had been severely punished by Lu Hong because of Yi Chun. That time, He Jin had been punished so miserably that it could even be said that his bones and tendons had been injured. And now, He Jin had been fined 1,000,000 purple gold by Lu Hong because of Yi Chun. To the current He Jin, this amount wasn't as simple as injuring his bones and tendons. To be more precise, the 1,000,000 purple gold that Lu Hong had demanded would more or less wipe out the little wealth that He Jin had painstakingly recovered. In this way, He Jin would become the poorest great general in history. Not to mention maintaining his luxurious lifestyle, He Jin wouldn't even be able to maintain his daily expenses. It was for this reason that He Jin's face had turned ghastly pale after Lu Hong's decision. However, he had no choice but to hand it over. Otherwise, Lu Hong would definitely punish him severely. Of course, he wouldn't be beheaded, but a demotion in rank was unavoidable. He might even be beaten with a killing stick. After all, Lu Hong had asked for it, but he didn't get the money he wanted. He would definitely feel uncomfortable. If Lu Hong was uncomfortable, the unlucky one would naturally be He Jin. As soon as He Jin finished speaking, Lu Hong, who had just announced his punishment, immediately nodded in satisfaction. He then looked at Zhang Rang and asked, "Father, why are you doing this?" "Father Rang, my good son-in-law, which country are you going to attack now?" "Your Majesty, this servant hasn't received any news from the front lines yet, but I reckon that there will be news soon." Zhang Rang, who had failed in his attempt to kill He Jin, hurriedly gave a flattering smile and bowed as he said this. As soon as Zhang Rang's words fell, a messenger hurriedly came to the main hall, then bowed to Lu Hong and said, "Brother Lu Hong, Your Majesty, Lord Yu of Beach has moved to Silla Kingdom." Silla Kingdom. Lu Hong was slightly stunned when he heard this. Then he looked at Zhang Rang and asked, "Father Rang, I heard that Silla Kingdom is very shameless. They treat all of our Han Dynasty's things as theirs. Even Confucius was treated as a person from Silla Kingdom?" "Yes, Your Majesty. The citizens of Silla Kingdom are all very shameless." When Zhang Rang heard this, he hurriedly bowed and said. When Lu Hong heard this, his face immediately darkened. Then he looked at Zhang Rang and shouted in a deep voice, "Pass on my decree. I order you of Beach to destroy Silla Kingdom. I don't want to hear about the existence of the scum of Silla Kingdom in this world. Your Majesty, Yu of Beak's army is extremely fast. Furthermore, Silla Kingdom is just a small country. I'm afraid that before the messenger arrives, Silla Kingdom will be destroyed by Yu of Beach." When Zhang Rang heard Lu Hong's order, he was slightly stunned and then bowed. Chapter 966. Zhang Rang naturally didn't expect that Lu Hong would suddenly be interested in Silla Kingdom. Otherwise, he wouldn't be stunned. However, this wasn't important. What was important was that Zhang Rang had received a secret report from his subordinates. He already knew the fact that the reincarnation Immortal City had an army of more than 2 million. If it were anyone else, they might not care much about this, but Zhang Rang was different. In Zhang Rang's heart, Yi Chun was definitely one of his own. Zhang Rang didn't want Lu Hong to know the true number of the reincarnation Immortal City's army that had been suppressed with great difficulty. This would make Yi Chun suspected and even feared by Lu Hong again. As soon as Zhang Rang's words fell, Lu Hong was stunned. At this moment, Zhang Rang bowed with a flattering face and said, "Your Majesty, actually, you don't have to issue an edict. This is because your good son-in-law, Yu of Beach, went abroad to fight this time in order to expand the territory of the Han Dynasty. For your Majesty's title of Eternal Emperor, he went out to fight." When Lu Hong heard this, his eyes lit up. Then he laughed out loud and said, "Father Rang is right. Others can't do this, but my good son-in-law can. Ha ha." At the border of Silla Kingdom, the Eastern Player Army was fighting fiercely with the players of Silla Kingdom and the natives of Silla Kingdom. At the location of the Eastern Player Army, these F*King Koreans are pretty good at resisting. F*CK, they've been fighting for so long, but they still haven't reached the border. The key is that Silla Kingdom has a native army to help them, while we are pure players. Otherwise, we would have reached the capital of Silla Kingdom in minutes. Damn it, we can't go on like this. Our death rate isn't much lower than Silla Kingdom's. If we continue fighting, we won't be able to win. What's there to be afraid of? Didn't the world announcement say that Yi Chun is about to arrive at Silla Country? As long as Yi Chun arrives, Silla Country will be destroyed in a matter of minutes. After that, we can farm Silla Country's players like monsters. Sigh, if I had known this would happen, I would have followed Yi Chun to Dongzhou, India, and the Polar Bear Empire from the very beginning. Now that I've come here, not only did I not get anything, I even died twice. There's nothing we can do. The combat power of the Silla players is not lower than ours. Moreover, they have the help of the natives. It's already not bad that they can fight to this extent. At the location of the Silla State Player Army. Zhongshuan, do you think Yi Chun from the east will attack us? Definitely not. Don't forget, he went from India to the Polar Bear Empire and didn't come to Silla Country. This already shows that he doesn't see Silla Country as a target. Damn it, I still don't understand why Yi Chun is so powerful even though he's also a player. In less than a day, he destroyed Dongzhou, India, and the Polar Bear Empire. Sai, when I first heard this news, I thought I was hallucinating. I didn't expect it to be true. What's there to be afraid of? We, the Koreans, are the strongest in the world. If Yi Chun comes, we can also destroy him. Big Zhong, put away your ignorance. Yi Chun can destroy 3 countries. This is enough to show his strength. If Yi Chun really comes to Silla country, the only thing we can do is to surrender immediately. Bastards, the Koreans are invincible. You actually said that you want to surrender. You are all the disgrace of Silla country. That's right, the Koreans are the strongest. Kill these bastards. Damn it, don't talk about the Koreans and don't talk about the glory of the Koreans. Don't you know that the damn Imperial Yin City directly announced its surrender? But Yi Chun didn't accept it at all. Damn the Emperor of Silla country. He's the biggest disgrace of the Koreans. After we deal with the Eastern Player Army, we'll go back and kill that damn bastard. But now, either you hurry up and kill the Eastern players, or wait to be killed by us. Just as the Eastern players and Silla country players were discussing with each other, the space above the battlefield suddenly distorted. Then, a huge island that covered the sky appeared, where the Eastern Player Army was. Damn it! Yi Yu of Gojoseon is here. Haha, I told you. Yi Yu of Gojoseon said that he would come to Silla country. He will definitely come. This is great. Damn it. I'm going to kill these Silla country players later. That's right. I have to kill them. These dogs are so pretentious. I don't like them. Where the Silla country players were, what's with the island in the sky? Can anyone tell me? I don't know. Damn it, isn't this a game? Why did an island that can fly suddenly appear? Is there a god in the game world? Who knows? But looking at the location of the island, it seems to be helping the Eastern players. Damn it, don't do that. No, it's obvious that this island is here to help us Koreans. Otherwise, they wouldn't have suddenly appeared in the Eastern players' territory. That's right, it must be like that. As long as that island lands, it will crush all the Eastern players. Just as the Eastern players were shocked and overjoyed, and the Silla country players were secretly guessing, dozens of distorted spaces suddenly appeared on the battlefield. In the next second, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Gao Shun, Zhang Liao, and other generals rushed out of the distorted space. Then, there were groups of reincarnation immortal city soldiers, where the Silla country players were. Look, the armor on their bodies seems to be the Han soldiers. Look, the flag with the word Yi Chun. They should be Yi Chun's security organization. Impossible. It can't be Yi Chun. How can Yi Chun have an island that can fly and teleport the security organization to the ground? This is too fantastical. I don't believe it. You have Beach flag. I saw the flag of you of Beach. They are Yi Chun's security organization. Damn it. I finally know how Dongzhou, India, and the Polar Bear Empire were destroyed. What should we do? What should we do? Yi Chun has a divine artifact that we don't know about. We can't fight against it at all. Just as the players of Silla Nation were talking amongst themselves, the army of the reincarnation immortal city appeared on the battlefield in a domineering manner. The Eastern players who were fighting automatically retreated. As for the Silla country players and natives, they were so scared that they kept retreating. They couldn't help but be afraid. The sudden appearance of the huge island seriously exceeded their understanding. In addition, as soon as the reincarnation immortal city army appeared, they automatically erupted with a bloody aura and a strong and cold killing intent. Whether it was the Silla country players or the Silla country native army, they couldn't remain calm. Where the reincarnation immortal city army was Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Gao Shun, Li Yuanba, Gan Ning, and the other generals looked at the retreating Silla country native army and the Silla country player army. Then, they raised the weapons in their hands and shouted, "Charge!" Chapter 9:67. Under the orders of Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Gao Shun, and the others, the reincarnation immortal city army raised their spears and shouted, "Kill! Kill! Kill! 2! 41 million reincarnation immortal city soldiers shouted, and their voices shook the sky. In the next second, the reincarnation immortal city army followed Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Gao Shun, and the other generals in charge. Rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The speed of the reincarnation immortal city army reached its peak in just a few breaths. Then, with an extremely violent killing intent and a bloody and merciless aura, they charged directly at the Silla Country player army at the front. At the Silla Country player army. How is that possible? Charging takes at least 5 to 6 seconds before it can be successfully activated. How did Yi Qin's defense team activate it in the blink of an eye? That's not important. F*CK. What I'm most worried about is that island in the sky. If it suddenly flies above us and then lands, we will all die. Do you think that Yi Qin was able to destroy those 3 countries so quickly because of the island in the sky? Stop ting and retreat. We don't have war horses, so we can't stop the cavalry army's charge at all. Just as most of the Silla Country players were shocked and worried because of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army and the Reincarnation Immortal Island army's charge. A Silla Country player leader suddenly turned to look at the Silla Country players and shouted, "Don't embarrass us Koreans. All of you, calm down and attack quickly. Shoot the arrows. There's nothing to be afraid of, even if they are riding horses. If we shoot the arrows now, not only can we kill a large number of them, we can also stop their charge." At this point, the Silla Country player leader suddenly thought of something and then shouted, "Don't forget that this is the game world. You won't really die if you die. If you really retreat and escape, you won't be able to go offline. Sooner or later, you will be caught by Yi Qin and killed by Yi Qin. Think about the fate of the players in Dongzhou, India, and the Polar Bear Empire. If you don't want Silla Country to be destroyed and become slaves, stand up bravely, pick up your weapons, and fight with Yi Qin. Don't think about surrendering, and don't lose your courage. You are the pride of Silla Country. For the glory of Silla Country, even if you die, you have to die. You can't retreat." As soon as the leader of the Silla Country players finished speaking, the panicking Silla Country players were all stunned. Then they all quieted down. When the Silla Country player leader saw this, he continued shouted, Silla Country Immortal Cities, and the Country Immortal Cities Army, and the Immortal City Silla Country's Silla, Army, and Silla. Once that happens, the players of Xinluo will be like the players of the other 3 countries, unable to fight against the monsters in the real world. Then, the monsters will break into the city and kill us. Young Master Pu is right. If we really retreat, it will be easier for Yi Qin to attack Silla Country. We can't do that. A Silla Country player suddenly shouted with a serious face. That's right, that's it. If we really can't defeat Yi Qin, then Yi Qin will destroy our country, and the players of the East will treat us as monsters and kill us back and forth. We can't do that. Another person echoed. That's right. We can't retreat. We can't retreat. Just as the Silla Kingdom players were shouting, a middle-aged man beside the leader of the Silla Kingdom players suddenly raised his right hand and shouted loudly, "Let's go. Duh. Long live the Republic of Korea. Duh. Long live the Republic of Korea." Waves of cheers came from the Silla Country players. When the Silla Country player leader, young Master Pu, saw this, he immediately raised a weapon in his hand. Then he pointed at the Reincarnation Immortal City army and shouted, "Release the arrows." As soon as the leader of the Silla Nation players, young Master Pu, finished his words, the tens of millions of Silla Nation players took out their bows and arrows. Then, they faced the army of Reincarnation Immortal City and released the bowstrings. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Tens of millions of arrows instantly rose into the sky. Then, with a sharp piercing sound, they shot toward the Reincarnation Immortal City army. Rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped and the earth rumbled. The Reincarnation Immortal City army was still charging forward. There was no chaos because of the tens of millions of arrows that were about to descend, where the Eastern players' army was. Damn! Not only are these Silla Country players not running away, but they're also attacking EU of Gojoseon's army. Hee, these stupid Koreans. They don't know how powerful Yi of Gojoseon's army is. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to be so arrogant. That's not right. Yi of Gojoseon has destroyed 3 countries in a row. It's impossible that the Scylla country players don't know. Why do they still have the courage to resist? It's simple to have courage. They don't want their country to be destroyed. After their country is destroyed, they will definitely be killed by Yi of Gojoseon 3 to 5 times. Then, they'll be farmed by us Eastern players. After that, even if they don't want to die in the real world, it will be impossible. Who cares what they think? Anyway, I know one thing. Yi of Gojoseon is here. Scylla country is finished, and we can farm as much as we want. At the same time, we can follow behind Yi of Gojoseon and pick up equipment and skills. Brother, you're so straightforward. I'm a little embarrassed to farm Koreans. Damn you. Don't be so pretentious. If you're embarrassed, leave now. No one will stop you. Damn, I'm just joking. Liven up the atmosphere. Just as the Eastern players were discussing, the tens of millions of arrows shot by the Scylla country players landed on the ground and completely enveloped the charging Reincarnation Immortal City army. Ding, ding, dang, dang. The dense sound of collision instantly rang out. Then, the arrows that fell from the sky were bounced off the armor of the Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers and the long spears in the hands of the Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers. Rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped and the earth rumbled. Not only was the Reincarnation Immortal City army unharmed by the tens of millions of arrows shot by the Scylla country players, even their charging speed was not affected in the slightest. At the location of the Scylla country player army. How is this possible? What grade is their equipment? I'm using an Earth grade bow. Heaven grade, it must be Heaven grade. Damn it. Yi-chan actually gave his soldiers Heaven grade equipment. I don't even have one. Damn it. Is there any justice left? Yi-chan's island that can fly is already abnormal enough. Why is the grade of the equipment of his soldiers so high? Damn it. Yi-chan must have cheated. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given his soldiers Heaven grade equipment. Chapter 968. What should we do? What should we do? The equipment on Yi-chan's soldiers are too high grade. We can't break through their defense. Just as the players of Scylla country were discussing in shock because of the high-grade equipment of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, the 241 million soldiers of the Reincarnation Immortal City lowered their spears. At this moment, the uniform movements of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army caused the tens of millions of players of Scylla country to be stunned on the spot. Damn it, this is a battlefield. It's not a celebration, nor is it a ceremony. Why can Yi-chan's soldiers ride their war horses in unison? I don't know. I only know that we really should retreat. If we don't retreat, we will all die. Infantry can't withstand the charge of cavalry. The players of Scylla country were discussing in shock because of the uniform movements of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. The face of the leader of the players of Scylla country, young Master Pu, darkened. In the next second, young Master Pu roared hatefully. Duh, there are no cowards among the citizens of the Republic of Korea. Those who have spears, insert all your spears into the ground. Line up densely. Line up diagonally with Yi-chan's defense team. Also, put some stones under the spears. As soon as young Master Pu finished speaking, the players of Scylla country, who had just become chaotic, were stunned. Then, they instantly burst into an uproar. Is this useful? It's useful. It must be useful. Ha ha. Young Master Pu is the smartest. This is a mutated barricade. What's a barricade? Idiot, I told you to listen more to the history of the East, especially the ancient wars. You didn't listen. Let me tell you, a barricade is used to deal with cavalry. With a barricade, the cavalry can't charge at all. Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and get the barricade. Hurry up. Do as young Master Piao says. As long as the barricades are set up, Yi-chan's cavalry won't be able to continue their charge. This way we can engage in close combat. That's right. If we build a barricade, Yi-chan's security team will be useless. We have tens of millions of people in the Republic of Korea. Even if we can't defeat Yi-chan's soldiers one-on-one, we can still fight together. Then we'll kill Yi Chen's troops. Haha. Once we kill Yi Chen's soldiers, all their equipment will be ours. This way, our Republic of Korea will become the strongest empire. Hurry up and move. Hearing this, the leader of the Scylla players, young Master Pu, looked at the Scylla players with a smug expression and shouted. As soon as the leader of the Scylla players, Master Piao, finished speaking, the Scylla players began to move. Not long after, rows of spears and stones appeared on the battlefield to form a barricade at the location of the Eastern players' army. When the Eastern players saw the Scylla players quickly create rows of slanted spears, they were stunned at first. Then they immediately cursed. F***CK. These Scylla players, what the F***CK are they thinking? They actually know how to use barricades that appeared in the ancient wars of the East. Mother***Ker. These Mother***King Koreans are so F***King sinister. With this, even if King Yuye's army is invincible, they would still be disrupted by this **T, and a bunch of them would die. You're thinking too much. Not to mention that this isn't a real barricade. Even if it is, the Scylla players won't be able to hurt Yu of Gojoseon's army. Don't forget what realm Yu of Gojoseon is at. I think so too. As long as Yu of Gojoseon makes a move, no matter how the Scylla players jump or how persistent they are, the result will be the same. They will be tortured until they doubt their lives. Just as the Eastern players were discussing because the Scylla players used a simplified version of barricade to fight against the reincarnation Immortal City's army, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals at the front of the reincarnation Immortal City's army looked at each other and then circulated the innate true origin in their bodies. In the next second, a series of buzzing sounds instantly sounded from the weapons in the hands of Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At this moment, the weapons in the hands of Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals lit up with white light. Then, the weapons in their hands swept forward. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The sound of air being torn apart instantly sounded. Then, more than a dozen air blades that were 300 meters long appeared out of thin air. Then, they cut straight toward the simplified version of barricade created by the smug Scylla players. Kacha, kacha, kacha. Dense cutting sounds immediately rang out. Then, the simple barricades created by the Scylla players were all cut into two without exception. In the distance, the Scylla players who saw this scene were all stunned. How is this possible? We're the realms of Yi Chen's generals. D***M in it. Even the strongest native general of the Republic of Korea can't do what they did. Why is this happening? Don't be afraid. There's still half of it. It should still be useful. Just as the players of Scylla Country were discussing in shock because the simplified version of the barricade was cut in half, the army of the reincarnation Immortal City split into two. Then, an army of 510,000 heavy cavalry that looked like rhinoceroses but was covered in scales appeared at the location of the Eastern players' army. F***CK. Wild rhinoceroses. This is the Samsara Legion, the most powerful legion under Yu of Gojoseon. Damn, I was wondering why the reincarnation Immortal City's army was all riding horses. I didn't see the most powerful Samsara Legion under Yu of Gojoseon. It turns out that they are at the back of the reincarnation Immortal City's army. This time, the players and natives of Scylla are going to be in trouble. So be it. What sort of pity? But then again, why is Yu of Gojoseon's Samsara Legion at the back? Are you stupid? The Samsara Legion is the most powerful legion under Yu of Gojoseon. Its level must be high. Whether it's killing natives or players, there won't be much EXP. Instead of wasting it, it's better to give the opportunity to level up to other soldiers. At the location of the Scylla army, the players of Scylla, who were originally flustered because Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals had cut the simplified version of the barricade in half. The moment they saw the wild rhinoceroses, their eyes widened. What kind of monster is this? Rhinoceroses? No, Rhinoceroses aren't that big, and they don't have scales on their bodies. Damn it, these monsters are too big, and they have scales on their bodies. The remaining half of the wooden stick can't hurt them at all. Just as the players of Scylla were panicking because of the Samsara Legion's sudden participation in the battle, the Samsara Legion, who had already switched to the wild rhinoceroses, suddenly began to accelerate. Rumble! Tens of thousands of bulls galloped, and the earth rumbled. The Samsara core gave off a tyrannical and domineering aura as they charged towards the Shinlua player army in a berserk manner. At this moment, the earth trembled and gravel flew everywhere. Chapter 969. The wild rhinoceroses that the Samsara Legion rode were all savage beasts whose realms were comparable to saint-level generals. Therefore, their speed was extremely fast. In just a few breaths, they arrived at the front of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army and accelerated again. Rumble! Tens of thousands of bulls galloped, and the earth rumbled. The speed of the Samsara Legion continued to increase. Along with the speed of the Samsara Legion, the Samsara Legion's bloody aura was so strong that it was almost suffocating. There was also a monstrous murderous intent that shot straight into the sky. They're demons. They're demons. One of the Scylla players felt the aura of the Samsara army and suddenly shivered. Then he screamed out in a shrill voice. Are they demons that return from hell? A Scylla player's pupils constricted again and again, and then he shouted in a trembling voice. Rumble! The Samsara Legion arrived in front of the simplified barricade that the Scylla players had created, but was directly cut into two by Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, and other generals. Bang, bang, bang. The wild rhinoceros's heavy hooves directly crushed the remaining half of the barricade and trampled it to the ground. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Pieces of the barricade were sent flying by the wild rhinoceroses. After 3 breaths, the simplified version of the barricade created by the Scylla players was directly destroyed by violence, and the Samsara Legion directly cut into the Scylla players' army, which was as many as tens of millions. Bang, bang, bang. Kacha, kacha, kacha. Groups of Scylla players were directly sent flying by the wild rhinoceroses. Then, in midair, their bones were shattered, and they vomited blood and died. Poochie, poochie, poochie. Rows of Scylla players were directly pierced through by the Samsara Legion soldiers. Then, they jumped up and threw into the distance. Rumble! Tens of thousands of bulls galloped, and the earth rumbled. In less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, a blood-red path filled with mangled corpses and meat paste appeared behind the Samsara Legion. It couldn't be helped. The wild rhinoceros was simply too fast. Moreover, its weight was beyond imagination. Once the players of Scylla country were stepped on, it would be difficult for their bodies not to shatter and turn into meat paste. Most importantly, the players of Scylla could not stop the charging Samsara Legion at all. Even if it was just a tiny bit, they could not do it. Gulp, gulp, gulp. The sound of gulping could be heard from the players of Scylla Kingdom. It wasn't that they hadn't seen cavalry charges before, but it was their first time seeing such an explosive charge from the Samsara Legion. At this moment, a strong sense of fear involuntarily appeared in the hearts of all the Scylla players. What did it feel like to be unable to resist, only to be mercilessly ravaged? Very simple collapse. At this moment, the players of Scylla country were directly frightened to the point of collapse by the Samsara Legion's valiant combat power. The glory of the Republic of Korea, the defense organization that resisted Yi Chun, the killing of Yi Chen's soldiers, the stealing of the equipment of Yi Chen's soldiers, and the arming of themselves, all of them left the players of Scylla country far away. Run! Run! A player of Scylla country screamed with a pale face. As soon as his words fell, a large number of frightened and trembling screams rang out. Damn it! This is a group of perverts. I don't want to fight with perverts. Don't block me. Bastard. Get out of my way. I want to go offline. Damn it, I want to go offline. This damn game. Why won't you let me go offline? The players of Scylla country shouted and screamed one after another. The leader of the players of Scylla country, young Master Pooh, looked gloomily at the Samsara legion that was wantonly trampling on the players of Scylla country. He then shouted, "Let's retreat to the border cities. There, we can use the city walls to resist Yi Chen's defense organization." As soon as the leader of the players of Scylla country, young Master Pooh's words fell, the players of Scylla country suddenly felt as though they were about to die, but they had grasped onto a life-saving straw. That's right, we can use the city walls to resist Yi Chen's cavalry army. A well-built, middle-aged Scylla country player's eyes lit up, and then he shouted with inexplicable joy. That's right, that's definitely possible. Cavalry can't attack the city. Quick, let's retreat to the border cities. After the players of Scylla country finished speaking one after another, they rushed toward the border cities of Scylla country without hesitation. At the location of a native army of Scylla country. When the general of the native army of Scylla country saw the players of Scylla country running away, he was instantly enraged. He then roared, "All of you attack. Whoever dares to retreat will be labeled as a sinner. Kill without mercy." The general of the native army of Scylla country could naturally see that the Samsara legion was very powerful. It was also because he could see that he didn't want the players of Scylla country to leave. Otherwise, where could he find a meat shield? As for the reason why the general of the native army of Scylla country wanted the players of Scylla country to be meat shields, it was also because he wanted to retreat to the border cities. Once he allowed the players of Scylla country to leave first, then it wouldn't be so easy for his army to retreat to the border cities. He didn't want to see such a situation happen, so he couldn't allow the players of Scylla country to leave the battlefield. As soon as the general of the native army of Scylla country finished speaking, the players of Scylla country instantly became restless. Damn native, he actually didn't let us retreat. Bastard, he definitely wants us to buy time for him. That must be it. Kill this bastard general. Our Republic of Korea doesn't have such a general. The leader of the native army of Scylla country, young Master Pooh, looked at the general of the native army of Scylla country with an ashen face, and then roared, "Kill this bastard." Young Master Pooh's words were full of anger. It was obvious that he was greatly provoked. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such words. Kill them. After a series of angry roars, the native army of Scylla country held their weapons and charged at the native army of Scylla country without hesitation. When the general of a native army of Scylla country saw this, his expression changed. "Are you all trying to rebel? F***CKU. After an angry roar, the leader of the native army of Scylla country shot an arrow at the general of the native army. Clang! After the general of the native army of Scylla country knocked the arrow away with a sword, he shouted sternly, "Bastard! I now declare that all of you are sinners." As soon as the general finished speaking, a series of system notifications instantly sounded in the ears of the players of Scylla country. Ding! You have been declared a sinner. Once you die, your level will return to 0. The person who kills you will receive 10 times the experience reward. Chapter 970. As soon as the system notification ended, the eyes of the Scylla players instantly turned red. They couldn't help but be envious because they had all become sinners. Even if they returned to the border city of Scylla, they would be chased by the natives of Scylla. They might even be chased by the players of Scylla who had yet to reach the border of the Great Han Empire in Scylla. And once they were killed, their levels would be reset to 0. How could such a punishment be accepted by them, who were hot-blooded and fighting for the sake of Scylla Kingdom? Kill these sons of cheese. Kill them all. Don't let any of them go. The Scylla players stared with bloodshot eyes. They held the weapons in their hands with a ferocious expression and charged toward the native army of Scylla. They didn't want to think about fighting against Yi Chun for the sake of the Republic of Korea. Right now, they only wanted to do one thing, and that was to kill all the natives of Scylla Kingdom at the border. At the location of the Eastern player army, the Eastern players were stunned when they saw the Scylla players attacking the native army of Scylla. F***CK, what's going on? Aren't the players afraid of being punished for killing the natives? Who the F***CK knows? I don't understand. F*CK, this is strange. If the native army is blocking the way and the Scylla players want to escape, I can understand why they are attacking the natives. After all, Yu of Gojosian's army is too ferocious. But the way the Scylla players are attacking, it doesn't seem like they are running for their lives. It seems like they're fighting for their lives. Who cares what's going on? The fate of these idiots is destined. They will definitely be killed by Yu of Gojosian's army. At the location of the Scylla native army, after seeing the Scylla players crazily killing the native soldiers, the general of Scylla was stunned at first. Then his face darkened. Originally, the general of the Scylla native army thought that the Scylla players here would be labeled as sinners. These Scylla players would beg for mercy and let him avoid their punishment. This way, he could continue to force the Scylla players to block the Samsara Legion and buy time for him to retreat. Who would have thought that the result would be completely different? To be more precise, the players of Shinloa did not follow the script that he had set at all. All of them went crazy and attacked his army with all their might. Damn mutants! After thinking about it angrily, the general of the native army of Scylla looked at the messenger beside him with an ashen face and shouted, "Pass down the order, return to the border cities." Yes, General. When a messenger heard the words of the commander of the native army of Scylla, he hurriedly bowed and replied. After saying that, he hurriedly ran to pass on the order of the commander. The Shinloa native general really wanted to kill all the Shinloa players here. Unfortunately, he couldn't do that. This was because the Samsara Legion was massacring the Scylla players and would soon reach him. Behind the Samsara Legion, there were also 9 million cavalrymen from Samsara Immortal City wearing heaven-grade equipment. If it was before the appearance of the Samsara Immortal City army, the Shinloa native general wouldn't be afraid. But now, he couldn't help but be afraid. Damn it. It was already terrifying enough that the Samsara Immortal City army could remain unscathed under the cover of tens of millions of arrows. In addition, the Samsara Legion had heavy cavalry. The Shinloa native army had no chance of winning at all. Glancing fiercely at the Shinloa players who were still crazily attacking his soldiers and the ferocious and unstoppable Samsara Legion, the commander of the native army of Scylla spat out a mouthful of phlegm. Then, he turned his horse around and rushed toward the border cities of Shinloa. The Shinloa native soldiers who had received the order from the commander turned around without hesitation and followed the commander back to the border cities of Shinloa, at the location of the Eastern Player Army. Damn it, the native army of Shinloa is being killed by the Shinloa players. They actually didn't fight back. They even turned around and ran. What the hell is this? Damn it, can't you tell? They're just trying to save their lives. Hee, they have no choice but to run. Yu of Gojosian's Samsara Legion is simply a large-scale meat grinder. As long as they catch up with the native army of Shinloa, they will all be killed. Rumble, tens of thousands of bulls galloped, and the earth rumbled. The Samsara Legion easily and domineeringly reaped the lives of the Shinloa players. In less than 10 minutes, they ran through the Shinloa native army and caught up with the native army of Shinloa that was fleeing toward the border cities of Shinloa. At this moment, swaths of Shinloa warhorses were knocked into the air by the wild rhinoceroses. The native soldiers on the warhorses were directly stabbed to death by the Samsara Legion soldiers and thrown into the distance. Bang, 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 the dense collisions continued. The native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom, along with their warhorses, were constantly being killed again and again. Blood began to splatter on the ground, and the smell of blood began to surge. The terrifying attack scene created by the Samsara Legion directly stimulated the native soldiers of Shinloa, and they were terrified. What was domineering? The Samsara Legion, was it? What was cruel? The Samsara Legion, was it? What was cruel? The Samsara Legion, was it? No one could stop them. No one dared to stop them. Those who met them would die. Rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The 9 million reincarnation Immortal City army behind the Samsara Legion caught up with the Shinloa player army and directly started a cruel and merciless massacre. Swaths of Shinloa players were constantly killed, sent flying, and then trampled into meat paste. Damn it! Damn it! I'm not convinced. These damn natives, damn natives. Ah, don't kill me. I surrender. I really surrender. Yichun, I'll help you destroy Shinloa. Don't kill me. The players of Shinloa had been ruthlessly trampled by the Samsara Legion once, and they were labeled as sinners by the commander of the native army of Shinloa. Now, they were about to be wiped out by the army of Reincarnation Immortal City in one wave. Therefore, they broke down and shouted all kinds of things. However, no matter how they shouted, the attack of the Reincarnation Immortal City army did not stop at all. This was because their lord, Yi Chun, had only announced one order, and that was to kill all of them and not leave a single one alive. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's Mansion. Yi Chun, whose divine sense had enveloped the entire battlefield, was suddenly stunned. The experience gained by the soldiers, it seemed to have improved a lot. Just as Yi Chun thought of this on the battlefield, the Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers who were constantly killing the Shinloa players rose one by one with the light of advancement. Chapter 971. After seeing the light of his soldiers' advancement, Yi Chun was stunned for a moment. Then his eyes lit up. F***CK. Killing sinners during the World War could actually increase the experience gained by a large margin. Sinner was a title and also a punishment. It was one of the most severe punishments that players could suffer in the game world. This was because once one became a sinner, as long as one died, their level would be directly reset to 0, and all the equipment on their body would be lost after death. It could be said that the punishment of being a sinner was extremely severe. However, no matter how severe it was, killing a sinner would not give any experience. And now, during the World War, killing foreign players would give experience. Therefore, Reincarnation Immortal City's army could also gain experience by killing Scylla Kingdom's players. However, what Yi Chun did not expect was that the Scylla Kingdom's players who had become sinners could provide experience that was several times or even 10 times higher than the Scylla Kingdom's players under normal circumstances. If not for this, the soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City's army, who had yet to advance to saint level, would have to go through a few more battles before they could advance. F***CK. It seemed that he had to try to turn the foreign players into sinners. Killing foreign players with the title of sinner could give a large amount of experience. It was fine if Yi Chun did not know about it, but now that he knew, he naturally would not miss this opportunity. One had to know that Yi Chun went abroad to fight not only to snatch the fate of heaven and earth, but also to train his troops. Now that there was an opportunity to speed up the training of his troops, how could Yi Chun choose to ignore it? On the battlefield, rumble, 10,000 horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The charge of Reincarnation Immortal City's army continued. Swaths of Scylla Kingdom's players were constantly killed, and then they became level 0 players and had to start over. As far as the eye could see, the ground was filled with corpses and blood. Rumble, 10,000 bulls galloped, and the earth trembled. The Samsara Legion was also charging. Like a sharp sword, they mercilessly pierced through the native army of Scylla Kingdom. Then, they turned around and split into 5 rows, charging head-on toward the native army of Scylla Kingdom that was trembling in fear and had been cut in half. I surrender. A native soldier of Scylla Kingdom looked at the Samsara Legion that completely blocked the millions of native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom. He shivered as he jumped off his warhorse, then knelt on the ground and screamed. Swoosh, whoosh, swish. A series of dismounting sounds followed. Then a large number of Scylla native soldiers dismounted one after another. They threw away their weapons and knelt on the ground to surrender. Damn it. All of you deserve to die. The general of Scylla's native army looked at the increasing number of subordinates kneeling on the ground and wanting to surrender. His face suddenly became extremely ferocious. The Samsara Legion had easily caught up to him, and his army had been easily penetrated. This had already frightened the general of Scylla Kingdom. Now, when he saw his subordinates kneeling and surrendering, he was even more agitated. Therefore, the general of Shinloa's army, who was already in a bad mood, directly fell to the bottom. It wasn't that he hadn't thought of surrendering. He had thought of surrendering, but he couldn't because he was the general of Scylla Kingdom. If he surrendered, what awaited him would be the harshest punishment. His family, all those who were alive, would be executed, and his ancestors would be dug out from the grave by the emperor of Scylla Kingdom. Then, their bodies would be whipped and exposed to the sun. He didn't want his family to be executed because of him, and he didn't want his ancestors' bones to be tortured because of him. Therefore, no matter who surrendered, he couldn't surrender. However, he didn't want to die. Therefore, when he announced that he would withdraw to the border city of Scylla Kingdom, he had already thought of one thing. If he was caught, he would abandon his army and escape back to the border city alone. But now, his soldiers were so frightened by the Samsara Legion that they collapsed and begged for mercy. They directly knelt on the ground and surrendered. In this way, how could he return to the border city? How could he survive? Just as the general of the native army of Scylla Kingdom was cursing his soldiers with a ferocious expression, the merciless attack of the Samsara Legion arrived. The native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom who knelt on the ground and surrendered were trampled to death by the wild rhinoceroses one after another. The native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom who didn't surrender were sent flying by the wild rhinoceroses along with their warhorses. Then they were stabbed to death by the soldiers of the Samsara Legion in midair. Rumble! 10,000 bulls galloped, and the earth rumbled. The merciless and brutal attack of the Samsara Legion instantly caused an uproar. Why? We all surrendered. Why are you still attacking us? Doesn't the Great Han Defense Organization not kill captives? One of the surrendered soldiers roared as he looked at the approaching Samsara Corps with fear in his eyes. I surrender. I really surrender. Don't. A native of Scylla Kingdom who had come into contact with the Samsara Legion died under the hooves of the wild rhinoceroses before he could finish his words. The native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom were crazily shouting and screaming because of the merciless killing of the Samsara Legion. However, no matter what they thought, the Samsara Legion's actions of exterminating the native army of Scylla Kingdom were not affected at all. When the general of the native army of Scylla Kingdom saw the surrendered soldiers being slaughtered, a trace of joy appeared on his face. However, the expression on the general's face immediately froze. This was because the Samsara Legion had arrived, and he had nowhere to run. Rumble! The Samsara Legion was still charging, and the merciless killing mode was still ongoing. Large numbers of native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom were being slaughtered continuously. After 10 minutes, millions of native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom were all wiped out by the Samsara Legion without exception. At the same time, tens of millions of Scylla Kingdom players were wiped out by the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. As far as the eye could see, the land was covered in blood and corpses were everywhere. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's Mansion. Yi Chun, whose divine sense had covered the entire battlefield, raised his eyebrows when he saw this scene. He then looked at Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Gao Shun, and the other generals and sent a telepathic message. Send the troops to the border city of Scylla Kingdom, Floating Cloud City. Yes, my lord. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Gao Shun, and the other generals did not hesitate to bow in the direction of the Reincarnation Immortal City after hearing Yi Chen's telepathic message. After the generals finished speaking, they each led their armies and rushed towards the border city of Scylla Kingdom, Floating Cloud City. The Samsara Legion once again changed into war horses and followed behind the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. Rumble! Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army rushed towards the border city of Scylla Kingdom, Floating Cloud City, with the smell of blood in the air. Chapter 972. Floating Cloud City, City Lord's Mansion. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of hurried footsteps could be heard from outside the City Lord's Mansion hall. Then, a man dressed as an aide from the Scylla Kingdom hurriedly came to the hall. The City Lord of Floating Cloud City, who was anxiously pacing back and forth, stopped when he saw the person who came. Then he asked with a worried expression, "How is it? Has the great Han's army been beaten back? Can the emissaries set off? City Lord, great. Prince of Han is here." The native of Silla Kingdom, who was dressed as an aide, swallowed hard when he heard this. Then he said with a face full of panic, "What?" The city lord of Floating Cloud City, a huge city at the border of Silla Kingdom, was stunned when he heard this. Then he shouted in shock, "City Lord, Prince of Han is here." The city lord's aide hurriedly said after hearing the city lord's incredulous question. The city lord of Floating Cloud City, a huge city at the border of Silla Kingdom, sucked in a breath of cold air after hearing his aide's affirmation. Then he shouted, "How is this possible? Isn't Prince of Han in the Polar Bear Empire? How'd he come to our Silla Kingdom so quickly?" When the aide heard this, he hurriedly said, "City Lord, I really didn't lie to you. These are all I went over to investigate the war situation. I saw it with my own eyes." As the native of Silla Kingdom spoke, his body began to tremble involuntarily. It was obvious that he had thought of something terrifying. Otherwise, he wouldn't be like this. This was the truth. When the aide of the city lord of Floating Cloud City ran to the border battlefield to observe the battle situation, he saw with his own eyes the process of the reincarnation Immortal City's divine might. He also saw the reincarnation Immortal City's army killing people without mercy. He also saw the scene of the reincarnation Immortal City's army creating corpses everywhere and blood flowing all over the ground. He had seen dead people before, but he had never seen so many dead people, nor had he seen such a brutal and bloody scene. Therefore, he was afraid. Even if he realized that the situation wasn't right and ran back to the border city, he couldn't erase the fear of the reincarnation Immortal City's army from his mind. After the city lord of Silla Kingdom's Floating Cloud City heard his aide's confirmation, his body involuntarily staggered. What should we do? Although the governor of Floating Cloud City, a huge city at the border of Silla Country, had never seen the way the army of reincarnation Immortal City fought, he knew that the East Continent, India, and the Polar Bear Empire were all destroyed by the army of reincarnation Immortal City in less than a day. It was also because of this reason that the king of Silla Kingdom surrendered to Yi Chun. However, the result was that Yi Chun, the general of agile cavalry of the Great Han Empire, the governor of Yuzhou Province, as well as Yu of Beach and the son-in-law of Emperor Lu Hong of the Great Han Empire, did not accept the submission at all. The king of Silla Kingdom was forced to send him to the border city of Floating Cloud City to be the city lord. At the same time, he sent a large number of troops to guard Floating Cloud City. He also sent a large number of defense organizations and Inhumans to the border to resist the attacks of the Inhumans from the Great Han Dynasty. No one was willing to let their country be destroyed, and the king of Silla Kingdom was no exception. Originally, the king of Silla Kingdom had sent an envoy to bring a letter of credence to the Great Han Dynasty to submit to Emperor Lu Hong of the Great Han Dynasty. This way, even if Yi Chun, the Prince of Han with monstrous battle prowess, did not accept the submission of Silla Kingdom, he had to obey Lu Hong's orders. One had to know that the Great Han Dynasty often did. No matter who submitted, the emperor would accept it and then bestow a large amount of wealth and cloth, so as to show the majesty and nobility of the Great Han Dynasty. Unfortunately, there were too many Inhumans in the Great Han Empire. The envoy sent by the king of Silla Kingdom could not pass through it all. And this also led to the city lord of Floating Cloud City having to continue staying in Floating Cloud City. The city lord of Floating Cloud City was originally praying that Yi Chun would not attack Silla Kingdom, but the cruel reality told him one thing. Yi Chun had come, and he had brought his army with him. How could the city lord of Floating Cloud City, who had already confirmed this matter, not be afraid? How could he not be terrified? After all, he didn't want to die. However, Yi Chun had destroyed 3 countries in a row. How could he possibly be able to stop him? It was precisely because of this that the city lord of Floating Cloud City was so terrified that he didn't know what to do. When the aide heard this, he tried his best to stabilize his heart, which was beating violently because of fear. Then he looked at the city lord of Floating Cloud City and said, City Lord, I suggest that we leave Floating Cloud City for the time being. If we continue to stay here, I'm afraid, leave. How can we leave? If I leave, the king will not let me off. Moreover, my clansmen will also be implicated because of this. When the city lord of Floating Cloud City heard this, his eyes were lifeless as he slumped onto a chair and said in despair. When the aide heard this, he immediately fell silent. What the city lord of Floating Cloud City said was the truth. If he, the city lord, really left, the king of Scylla Kingdom would not let him off. After a short moment of thought, the aide gritted his teeth, then looked at the city lord of Floating Cloud City and said, City lord, why don't we take the initiative to open the city and surrender? Although this is somewhat dangerous, it's still better than facing EU of Gojosian's invincible army head-on. Moreover, after we open the city and surrender, even if EU of Gojosian wants to kill us, he won't really do it. Otherwise, this will damage his reputation. When the city lord of Floating Cloud City heard this, he was stunned for a moment before his eyes lit up. You're right. The Han people care about their reputation. The higher their status, the more they care about it. If we really take the initiative to open the city and surrender, take the initiative to welcome EU of Gojosian into the city, we will have the initiative. Then, EU of Gojosian probably won't easily deal with us. Just as the city lord of Floating Cloud City said this, his face stiffened. If we do this, then all my clansmen will be implicated because of this. After hearing the city lord of Floating Cloud City's worried words, the aide bowed to the city lord of Floating Cloud City and said seriously, City lord, EU of Gojosian was able to destroy 3 countries in less than a day. It would be easy for him to destroy the Scylla Kingdom. As long as we win this bet, and EU of Gojosian doesn't kill us, then not only will your family be safe and sound, but you will also become the top noble of the Scylla Kingdom. Even you, my lord, might become the new king of the Scylla Kingdom with the support of EU of Gojosian. Will I really become a king? When the city lord of Floating Cloud City heard this, his eyes lit up and he hurriedly asked. When the aide heard this, he nodded affirmatively and said, That's right, city lord. As long as we win the bet, then the chances of you becoming the king of the Scylla Kingdom are at least 80%. This is because EU of Gojosian will definitely find an obedient spokesperson to help him manage the Scylla Kingdom. Chapter 973. When the city lord of Floating Cloud City heard this, his expression immediately changed. Although what the aide said was the truth, it didn't sound good. Otherwise, the city lord of Floating Cloud City wouldn't have changed his expression after hearing the aide's extremely sincere, honest words. When the aide saw the city lord's expression, he was slightly stunned and then hurriedly bowed and said, City lord, please forgive me. I'm being so blunt for your own good. If you don't completely understand the current situation, you won't be able to lower your posture. At that time, I'm afraid it will affect EU of Gojosian's perception of you. Once EU of Gojosian has a bad impression of you, I'm afraid our plan will completely fail. After that, after hearing the aide's explanation, the city lord of Floating Cloud City suddenly shivered. In the next second, the city lord of Floating Cloud City gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, Don't think too much, just do as you say. If you succeed, you'll be the first to be credited. Thank you, city lord. When the aide heard this, he was immediately overjoyed and hurriedly bowed. When the city lord of Floating Cloud City heard this, he nodded, then looked at the aide and asked, Do you think the general of Floating Cloud City, Jin Zhongtai, can be persuaded? City lord, Jin Zhongtai is extremely stubborn. Moreover, he is loyal to the king. I'm afraid it will be very difficult to persuade him. When the aide heard this, he shook his head and said, When the city lord of Floating Cloud City heard this, his face immediately darkened. At this moment, the aide suddenly bowed and said, City lord, time is of the essence. Why don't we call Jin Zhongtai to the city lord's mansion first, then secretly poison him and get rid of him? This way, the city lord can directly control the millions of guards in Floating Cloud City. After that, we can open the city gates and welcome you of Gojoseon. Go and call Jin Jongtai. Tell him that I have something important to discuss with him." When the city lord of Floating Cloud City heard this, he nodded his head viciously and said. When the aide heard this, he bowed without hesitation and said, "Yes, city lord." After the aide finished speaking, he left the hall. On the city walls of Floating Cloud City. "What did you say? Prince Yu of Han's security forces are here?" After Jin Jongtai, the general of Floating Cloud City's garrison, heard the report of his subordinate spies, his face suddenly sank, and then he shouted in a low voice. When the spy heard this, he nodded and then said with a face full of fear, "That's right. Why, yes, General." When the general of Floating Cloud City, Jin Jongtai, heard this, he looked at the messenger on the city wall and shouted, "Pass down my order. Gather all the arrows, kerosene, rolling wood, and stones. In the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, I want to see all the arrows, kerosene, rolling logs, and stones." "Yes, General." When a messenger heard Jin Zhongtai's words, he hurriedly bowed and left the city wall. "General, the great Han dynasty's King Yi destroyed 3 countries in a single day, and his army was so fast The deputy general of Floating Cloud City looked at the empty wilderness in the distance, then looked at the general of the city, Jin Zhongtai, and said. When the general of Floating Cloud City, Jin Zhongtai, heard the deputy general's words, he glanced at the deputy general and then said in a deep voice, "No matter how powerful Prince Yu of Han is, he is still a human, not a god. As long as he is a human, he can be defeated. Don't be scared by his achievements. And don't forget the fact that you are the general of Scylla Kingdom." "General, When the deputy general heard this, his face suddenly changed and he hurriedly said. However, before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Jin Zhongtai. "As a general, fighting on the battlefield is your duty. Dying on the battlefield is your destiny. Don't let me down. Otherwise, the first person I will kill will not be Prince Yu of Han soldiers, but you." "Yes, General." When the deputy general of Floating Cloud City heard this, his face changed again. After trying his best to stabilize his suddenly beating heart, he directly bowed and said loudly. When the general of Floating Cloud City, Jin Zhongtai, heard this, he nodded. At this moment, the advisor of Floating Cloud City's city lord came to the city wall. "General Jin, the city lord invites you to his residence for a chat. He has something important to discuss with you. EU of Gojoseon's security team will arrive soon. This general is unable to leave the city wall. If the city lord wants to discuss something important, please invite him to the city wall for a chat." When the general of Floating Cloud City heard this, he glanced at the advisor of the city lord and said. When the advisor of the city lord heard this, his face immediately darkened. Then he said with some anger, "General Jin, the city lord is a noble of the Republic of Korea. Are you sure you want the city lord to personally climb the city wall and discuss with you?" "Yes." When the general of Floating Cloud City, Jin Zhongtai, heard this, he nodded without hesitation and said. When the advisor of the city lord heard this, his face darkened again. Then he shouted in a deep voice, "General Jin, I will pass on your words to the city lord word for word. I hope you won't regret it when the time comes." When the general of Floating Cloud City, Jin Zhongtai, heard this, he frowned and said, "I am the general of the city and am in charge of guarding the city. He is the city lord and is in charge of managing the internal affairs of the city. It has nothing to do with me. If you want to pass on a message, don't forget to also pass on this message to the city lord." When the advisor of the city lord heard this, he was instantly enraged. However, he immediately remembered the current situation and the purpose of coming to the city wall. At this instant, the advisor of the Floating Cloud city lord immediately withered. Then, he revealed an expression of regret. There was nothing he could do. Normally, he relied on his status as the advisor of the city lord and was used to being arrogant. So much so that he usually spoke in such a high and mighty tone. If it was any other time, he wouldn't care about this. However, he could not care about it now because his mission to invite the general of the city had failed. Just as the advisor was rapidly thinking of countermeasures to make up for his recklessness, a dull and heavy rumble suddenly rolled over from the distance. Rumble. When the general of Floating Cloud City, Jin Zhongtai, heard this, his expression immediately changed. He immediately turned his head to look in the direction of the sound. When Jin Zhongtai saw the burly man's defense organization galloping towards Floating Cloud City under the afterglow of the setting sun, his face instantly darkened. Yi Yu of Gojoseon is attacking. The eyes of the Floating Cloud City's city lord's advisor, who was interrupted by the muffled explosion, suddenly shrank. After shouting, he hurriedly ran down the city wall and ran towards the city lord's mansion. Hearing the scream of his advisor, the general of Floating Cloud City, Jin Zhongtai, pulled out the sword at his waist and shouted, "Prepare to meet the enemy." Rumble. 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. The 2,410,000 strong army of the reincarnation immortal city quickly appeared in the line of sight of all the natives of Scylla Kingdom. Chapter 974. Seeing the army of reincarnation immortal city, the native soldiers on the city walls of Floating Cloud City all widened their eyes. Great Han Defense Organization. It's the Great Han Defense Organization. Yi Yu of Gojoseon. It must be Yi Yu of Gojoseon's army. It must be them. What should we do? Yi Yu of Gojoseon's army is very powerful. We can't beat them at all. When the soldiers heard the orders of the great general, they would have followed the orders of the great general Jin Zhongtai immediately. However, this wasn't a normal time. This was because the army that had arrived outside Floating Cloud City was the great Han cavalry general, the governor of Yuzhou, who had destroyed 3 countries in less than a day. At the same time, he was also the subordinate army of Yu of Beach, Yichun. It was already good enough that they weren't scared away. How could they immediately carry out the orders of the general of the city defense, Jin Zhongtai? After hearing the panic conversation of his soldiers, the general of Floating Cloud City, Jin Zhongtai's expression changed, and he roared, "Prepare to meet the enemy. Otherwise, you will be punished by military law." As soon as Jin Zhongtai's words fell, the deputy general glanced at the army of reincarnation immortal city that was getting closer and closer. Then he gritted his teeth. In the next second, the deputy general of the city guard drew out the long sword at his waist with a whoosh sound, and then roared loudly. "Are you all King scared out of your wits? Didn't you hear the general's order? All of you, get ready for battle." As soon as the deputy general finished speaking, a poochy sound was heard. Then he saw a blood-stained sword tip piercing through the chest of the general of the city defense, Jin Zhongtai. The general of the city defense, Jin Zhongtai's body instantly stiffened. Then he lowered his head and looked at the blood-stained sword tip that had pierced through his body. Why? The deputy general of the city defense, who had pierced through the heart of the general of the city defense, heard Jin Zhongtai's puzzled question and smiled sinisterly. Then he roared, "Why? You're still asking me why? You idiot! Do you think you're very powerful just because you're an emperor-level general? Do you think that just because you are familiar with the art of war and have successfully plundered the border towns of the Grey Han dynasty, you are very good at leading troops in a battle? Let me tell you, you are just a King idiot. You want to fight with Yi Yu of Gojoseon? Why don't you take a piss and take a look in the mirror? Take a look at yourself." When Jin Zhongtai heard that, he spat out a large mouthful of blood with a pu sound. Then he angrily roared. When the deputy general of the city guard heard the shocked and furious voice of the city guard, he once again smiled sinisterly and then shouted sternly, "You what? Jin Zhongtai, it's fine if you want to die, but don't drag the brothers here down with you. Don't forget, you're just a bastard. Me, I'll kill you." When Jin Zhongtai, the general of the city guard, heard this, his face was immediately filled with rage, and then he roared. When the deputy general of the city guard heard this, he coldly snorted and swung the sword in his right hand. With a slash sound, the body of the general of the city guard, Jin Zhongtai, was instantly cut in half by the sword. At this moment, a large amount of blood spurted out as if it was free. The general of the city guard, Jin Zhongtai, lost all his strength and died on the spot. On the city wall, the soldiers who were stunned by the sudden attack of the deputy general of the city guard, Jin Zhongtai, immediately regained their senses. Then, they looked at each other, not knowing what to do. The deputy general of the city guard glanced at the soldiers on the city wall, then looked at the army of the reincarnation immortal city that was galloping towards floating cloud city. You should all know that Yi Yu of Gojoseon destroyed 3 countries in less than a day. At this point, the deputy general of the city guard looked at the native soldiers of Silla Kingdom and said, "Now, use your brains and think carefully. To be able to wipe out 3 countries in one day, and to be able to do so, is it possible for you to fight against King Yi, who is even stronger than our Shinlaw country? If you choose to fight against him, what will you face? Think carefully and tell me." As soon as the deputy general of the city guard finished speaking, the faces of the soldiers on the city wall all turned pale. After a short moment of silence, a thin native soldier of Silla Kingdom said nervously, "That's right, General. We can't fight against Yi Yu of Gojoseon. If we really fight against Yi Yu of Gojoseon, we will all die. Yes, General, we will all die. We can't defeat Yi Yu of Gojoseon's defense organization." A captain swallowed his saliva and said, "General, tell us what to do. We'll listen to you." "Yes, yes, we'll listen to the general." The native soldiers of Silla Kingdom on the city wall spoke their thoughts one after another. Then, they unanimously agreed to listen to the deputy general's orders. After listening for a while, the deputy general let out a long breath. Then, he raised his right hand and signaled for the native soldiers of Silla Kingdom to be quiet. After the native soldiers of Silla Kingdom on the city wall had completely quieted down, the deputy general of the city guard shouted, "Now, I'll give you a chance to live. Are you willing to catch it?" "Yes, yes, General, tell us. We're all listening." "Yes, General, we're all willing to listen to your orders." When the deputy general of the city guard heard this, he nodded in satisfaction and then shouted, "Very good. Since you're all willing, then follow me to kill the city lord and cut off his head. Then bring his head and Jin Zhongtai's head to open the city gate and offer the city to Yi Yu of Gojoseon." As soon as the deputy general of the city guard finished speaking, the native soldiers of Silla Kingdom on the city wall were all stunned. The city lord of Floating Cloud City was a noble of Silla Kingdom. Killing a noble was a felony. One would be punished to the point of begging for death. Otherwise, the soldiers wouldn't have stood rooted to the ground after hearing the vice-general's words. After a short silence, a native of Silla Kingdom who had regained his senses hesitated for a moment. Then, he looked at the deputy general of the city guard and asked, "General, the king seems to have submitted to Yi Yu of Gojoseon, but Yi Yu of Gojoseon didn't accept it. If we offer the city like this, will we be rejected by Yi Yu of Gojoseon?" "Good question." When the deputy general of the city guard heard this, he laughed and continued, "I was also worried about this. I was worried about that too. However, when I found out that King Yi Yu had destroyed the East Continent and India, I went to check the records. It said that the nobles of the Great Han Empire cared about reputation and prestige. Moreover, they didn't kill prisoners of war. As long as we show enough sincerity and offer the city to Yi Yu of Gojoseon in front of everyone, no matter how murderous Yi Yu of Gojoseon is, he won't disregard his reputation and kill us." Chapter 975. As soon as the deputy general finished speaking, the native soldiers on the city wall all widened their eyes and revealed an inexplicable excitement. They all knew that the Great Han Empire's general of agile cavalry, Yi Chun, had destroyed 3 countries in one day. It was precisely because they knew that they had a sense of fear and uneasiness towards Yi Chun and Yi Chen's army that they had yet to see. After all, the Prince Yu of Han, Yi Chun, had left the Great Han Empire and gone abroad to fight. No matter how one looked at it, He was aiming to destroy a country and expand the territory of the Great Han Empire. Of course, this wasn't the key point. The key point was that the Prince Yu of Han, Yi Chun, had destroyed countries that bordered the Great Han Empire. Unfortunately, Silla country was bordered by the Great Han Empire. To the natives of Silla country, how could they not be afraid? How could they not be terrified? Now, the Deputy General had found a chance to live for them. They didn't have to fight against the Great Han Empire's army, Yu of Beech, Yi Chen's army. They didn't have to worry about death. How could they not be excited? How could they not be excited? Long live the General! Long live the General! General, lead us to attack. That's right, General. Yi Yu of Gojoseon's army will be here soon. Quickly lead us to attack. The native soldiers of Silla Kingdom on the city wall shouted and roared because they had a chance to live. At this moment, a native noble of Silla, wearing a luxurious robe, climbed up the city wall. The native soldiers of Silla country, who were still celebrating just now, instantly quieted down. Sensing the abnormality, the Deputy General was stunned at first, then hurriedly looked at the position of the soldiers who had quieted down first. When the Deputy General saw that the person who had come was the City Lord of Floating Cloud City, his eyes suddenly widened. In the next second, the Deputy General pointed the longsword his right hand at the City Lord of Floating Cloud City and shouted, "The chance to live is right in front of us. Kill him. Don't listen to him. If you kill him, not only will you not have to bear the heavy crime of offending nobles, you will also be able to continue living." When the Floating Cloud City's City Lord heard this, his eyes fiercely shrank before he loudly shouted. The reason the Floating Cloud City's City Lord came to the city walls was naturally to find an opportunity to kill Floating Cloud City's city guard, General Jin Zhongtai, and then use this opportunity to surrender to Yi Chun. But what he didn't expect was that when he was about to reach the top of the city wall, he heard the conversation between Jin Zhongtai and his deputy. He also heard Jin Zhongtai's dying roar. Originally, Floating Cloud City's City Lord was very happy. After all, Jin Zhongtai was dead. He could directly take Jin Zhongtai's head, open the city gates, and then present the city to Yi Chun. Who would have thought that the Deputy General of the City Guard would actually plot against him? He wanted to kill him and then take his head and the head of Jin Zhongtai to Yi Chun in exchange for a chance to live. At that moment, the City Lord of Floating Cloud City was so scared that he wanted to leave immediately. However, under the advice of his aide, he forcefully dispelled this idea and directly climbed up the city wall. This was because he had an advantage that the Deputy General of the City Guard didn't have, and that was that he was a noble of Silla Kingdom. When the soldiers of Floating Cloud City heard the words of the City Lord, they all looked at each other, their faces revealing expressions of struggle and hesitation. When the Deputy General of the City Guard saw this, his face immediately darkened, and then he hurriedly shouted, "Don't believe his nonsense. He is a noble of Silla Kingdom. Killing him will show our sincerity." When the City Lord of Floating Cloud City heard this, his eyes suddenly widened, and then he roared, "Bullshit! The military general is the most unstable factor. Only by killing the military general can Yi Yu of Gojoseon truly be at ease with us, and it can also show our sincerity. Otherwise, opening the city gate and offering the city is just empty talk. It's impossible to succeed." When the native soldiers of Silla Kingdom on the city wall heard this, they were all stunned once again. Then, they couldn't help but lock their gazes onto the Deputy General of the City Guard. Obviously, the soldiers believed the words of the City Lord of Floating Cloud City more. "Have you forgotten that I was the one who gave you a chance to live?" Sensing that something was wrong with the soldiers' gazes, the Deputy General of the City Guard's face instantly paled, and then he shouted angrily. When the City Lord of Floating Cloud City heard this, he sneered and shouted, "You gave them a chance to live. Ridiculous. Even without you, they wouldn't have died, because I had already planned to get rid of one person in exchange for a chance to live for everyone in Floating Cloud City." When the Silla native soldiers on the city walls of Floating Cloud City heard this, they all looked at each other. Then, they saw the soldiers around the Vice General of the City Guard pick up the weapons in their hands and stabbed towards the vice-general of the city guard. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. The sound of dozens of bodies being pierced rang out. Then they saw the deputy general of the city guard being stabbed by the native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom on the city wall, creating dozens of bloody holes. You will also die. You will definitely die. A curse filled with unwillingness and grievance suddenly sounded out from the deputy general of the city guard's mouth. Then everything returned to silence. When the city lord of Floating Cloud City saw this, he immediately let out a long breath. Then he looked at the soldiers on the city wall and shouted, "Cut off the heads of Jin Zhongtai and this bastard, then follow me down the city wall, open the city gate, and offer the city." As soon as the city lord of Floating Cloud City finished speaking, 2 native captains of Scylla Kingdom immediately stepped forward and cut off the heads of the general and deputy general of the city guard. Then they followed the city lord of Floating Cloud City down the city wall. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's Mansion. Yi Chun, whose divine sense enveloped the entire Floating Cloud City, looked in the direction of Floating Cloud City and curled his lips in disdain. If other people from the Great Han Empire came here and encountered such a situation, they might really do as you think and not kill you. They might even reward you greatly. Unfortunately, I am not them. Outside Floating Cloud City. Rumble. 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. When the army of Reincarnation Immortal City was 2,000 meters away from Floating Cloud City, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Gao Shun, and the other generals all ordered their armies to slow down. As for Huang Zhong, he directly led his army of 100,000 and charged towards Floating Cloud City without slowing down at all. Just as Huang Zhong advanced a few hundred meters, the city gate of Floating Cloud City opened with a creak. Then he saw the city lord of Floating Cloud City leading the native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom of Floating Cloud City. They were completely unarmed and stood outside the city gate of Floating Cloud City. Bang, bang, bang. A series of kneeling sounds instantly rang out. The city lord of Floating Cloud City, his aides, and all the native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom all knelt on the ground. "Welcome to the city, Lord you of Beach of the Great Han Empire." Chapter 976. Huang Zhong, who was leading the charge, was slightly stunned when he heard the Lord of Floating Cloud City shout. Then he sneered coldly. In the next second, Huang Zhong raised the long saber in his hand and shouted, "The Lord has orders. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive. Kill, kill, kill." Huang Zhong's 100,000 troops raised their spears in unison and shouted loudly. At this moment, a strong killing intent erupted. Then they rushed straight to the city gate of Floating Cloud City, where the native soldiers of Scylla were kneeling on the ground, as well as the city lord of Floating Cloud City. Floating Cloud City, City Gate. Hearing Huang Zhong's roar and the roar of the 100,000 Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers, the Floating Cloud City city lord and all the Scylla nation's native soldiers were stunned. How could this be? Didn't we open the city and surrender? Why are the Great Han Defense Organization still killing us? It shouldn't be. The Great Han Empire never killed captives before. As long as we surrender, they will stop their advance. What should we do? They're almost here. Just as the native soldiers of Scylla were discussing in panic, the city lord of Floating Cloud City swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Then he hurriedly picked up the heads of the general and deputy general of Floating Cloud City, which were still dripping with blood from the hands of the attendant beside him. Then he raised them high up. "This is the head of the general and deputy general of Floating Cloud City. We are sincerely willing to submit to Yi Yu of Gojoseon, willing to submit to the Great Han Empire." As soon as the city lord of Floating Cloud City said those words that were filled with fear, the aide beside him hurriedly looked at Huang Zhong and shouted, "Lord General, please don't misunderstand. We are very sincere in submitting to Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Please don't kill us." As soon as the aide finished speaking, The panicking soldiers of Scylla seemed to have found the source of the reincarnation Immortal City's army's non-stop attack. One by one, they rushed to shout, "Lord General, we are sincerely submitting. Please don't kill us. Lord General, we are obedient people. We don't have any weapons on us. Please understand." The shouts of the Scylla soldiers rang out one after another. However, Huang Zhong and Huang Zhong's 100,000 soldiers did not stop their charge. Rumble! 10,000 horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. As Huang Zhong and Huang Zhong's 100,000 subordinates approached, the faces of the city lord of Floating Cloud City, his aides, and the native soldiers of Floating Cloud City became paler and paler. No matter how one looked at it, Huang Zhong and his army of 100,000 didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. There was only one conclusion to this. Huang Zhong and his army of 100,000 Reincarnation Immortal City would kill everyone in Floating Cloud City without any hesitation. The Floating Cloud City Lord, who had noticed this, looked at his aide with a pale face and asked, "What's the matter? Didn't you say that it would succeed?" City Lord, this King Yi is very different from the other nobles and generals of the Great Han Dynasty. He seems to be here to destroy the country and not to conquer. After the advisor heard the city lord's question, he swallowed a mouthful of saliva with a gulp before opening his mouth to speak. When the city lord of Floating Cloud City heard this, he sat on the ground with a plop and said with a face full of despair, "I didn't expect that in the end. I still lost the bet. City Lord, I'll leave first." When the aide heard this, he looked at Huang Zhong and his army with a pale face and said, City Lord, I'll leave first." After saying this, he hurriedly ran away. When the soldiers of Scylla Kingdom saw this, they looked at each other. Then they instantly got up and fled in two different directions. When Huang Zhong, who was in the lead, saw this, he smiled coldly and shouted, "Release the arrows." As soon as Huang Zhong's words fell, the 100,000 Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers behind Huang Zhong all changed to bows and arrows, and then launched a blanket attack at the gate of Floating Cloud City. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 100,000 arrows instantly left the bowstring, and then all the Scylla natives at the city gate were seriously injured. Poochie, poochie, poochie. The sound of incomparably dense arrows piercing through bodies rang out in an instant. Then the city lord of Floating Cloud City, his aide, and tens of thousands of Scylla natives at the gate of Floating Cloud City were directly shot to death on the spot. Rumble! 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. Huang Zhong led an army of 100,000 men to the city gate of Floating Cloud City. Then he rushed straight to the streets of Floating Cloud City. The native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom, who had already heard the news that King Yi was going to kill them all, were unable to escape in time. Kill! Huang Zhong, who was the first to rush into Floating Cloud City, mercilessly slashed forward with a long saber in his right hand. Wong! 100-meter-long blade, Qi, appeared in an instant. Then it swiftly and violently cut through the densely packed Scylla Kingdom native soldiers on the street. Slash, slash, slash. The sound of thousands of bodies being cut rang out. Then thousands of Scylla natives on the street were directly cut into two. In an instant, his arms and head flew into the sky, and blood splattered everywhere. In the next second, 100,000 Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers arrived and followed Huang Zhong, charging towards the Scylla natives without slowing down in the slightest. Bang, bang, bang. Swaths of Scylla natives were sent flying by the warhorses. Poochie, poochie, poochie. The cold and merciless spears stabbed out row after row without stopping. A bloody and cruel massacre unfolded. Demons. They are demons. A Scylla captain shouted in despair as he looked at Huang Zhong and Huang Zhong's 100,000 subordinates who were rapidly approaching him. Don't kill me. Woo woo woo. I don't want to. Save me. Who will save me? Damn it, don't block my way. Waves after waves of miserable howls, desperate shouts, begging for mercy, and crying sounds constantly resounded throughout the streets of Floating Cloud City. At this moment, the soldiers of Scylla Kingdom in Floating Cloud City, Without exception, all of them fell into despair. They didn't understand. They had already surrendered and showed enough sincerity. Why did the Great Han Defense Organization continue to attack? They were unwilling. They had already surrendered, but they still didn't have a chance to live. However, no matter what the Silla soldiers thought, Huang Zhong and the 100,000 reincarnation Immortal City soldiers' blood-stained weapons showed no signs of stopping. The massacre continued. None of the 100,000 reincarnation Immortal City soldiers hesitated. None of them could bear it. They waved the weapons in their hands again and again. Every time they waved, they would take the life of a Silla soldier. To the soldiers of reincarnation Immortal City, their lord, Yi Chen's orders were everything. No one questioned or objected. There was only one thing they wanted to do, and that was to follow their lord, Yi Chen's orders to kill them all, leave no one alive. Chapter 977. As time passed, the cries and cries in Floating Cloud City at the border of Silla Nation gradually subsided. When all the cries and cries had completely subsided, Floating Cloud City returned to silence, except for Huang Zhong and 100,000 soldiers of reincarnation Immortal City. At this moment, the sun was setting in the west. The remaining afterglow of the setting sun shone on the scarlet blood that flowed freely in the city and the corpses of the citizens of Silla Nation that were strewn all over the streets. At this moment, Floating Cloud City had become a city of death. A gentle breeze blew past, and the already strong smell of blood immediately surged. Then, it wantonly scattered into the distance. This was war. This was death. There was no mercy or sympathy. There was only merciless killing. There was also an ending where either one of them died. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Governor's Mansion. Yi Chun, whose divine sense covered Floating Cloud City, nodded in satisfaction when he saw this. He then looked at Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals and transmitted his voice to them. Split up into 10 groups and sweep through Silla Nation. Gather at the capital of Silla Nation. Yes, my lord. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Gao Shun, and Zhang Liao, who had deliberately not participated in the Battle of Floating Cloud City in order to allow Huang Zhong to train his troops, bowed and saluted loudly in the direction of Reincarnation Immortal City. At the same time, Huang Zhong, who had just destroyed Floating Cloud City, had a serious expression on his face. He then bowed and saluted loudly in the direction of Reincarnation Immortal City. Yes, my lord. After Huang Zhong finished speaking, he led 100,000 soldiers and rushed out of Floating Cloud City. He then chose a direction and moved quickly. Not long after Huang Zhong left, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Gao Shun, and Li Yuanba led their respective armies and rushed into Floating Cloud City. They then dispersed in all directions. Rumble. 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. Wherever the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City passed, smoke and dust billowed, and the smell of blood filled the air. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord Mansion. When Yi Chen saw his army leaving, he smiled. With a thought, the Reincarnation Celestial Island, which was carrying the Reincarnation Celestial City, flew towards the hinterland of Silla Country slowly. Not long after Yi Chen left, the Eastern Player Army arrived at Floating Cloud City. Looking at the corpses that filled the city and the blood that covered the ground, the players were used to it. However, for the players who saw the results of the battle for the first time, they were stunned. Damn, Yi Yu of Gojoseon is attacking the city. He's not leaving anyone alive. I used to know that Yi Yu of Gojoseon is ferocious. I also heard that Yi Yu of Gojoseon killed many people. Now that I've seen it with my own eyes, I know that the news about Yi Yu of Gojoseon was not exaggerated at all. Nonsense. I only admire one person in this game, and that is Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Damn, it said that killing one person is a sin, but killing 10,000 people is a hero. If he kills 9 million people, he's a hero among heroes. Yi Yu of Gojoseon is not just a hero among heroes. Of course, who is Yu of Gojoseon? He's the #1 player in the East and the #1 player in the world. Even a hero among heroes is not worthy of Yu of Gojoseon. Hee hee, you guys continue chatting. I'm going to clean up the battlefield. I wonder what good things I can get this time. Damn, wait for me. Because of the corpses all over the city and the blood all over the ground, the Eastern players sighed for a moment before activating the picking up mode. All of their equipment and cultivation techniques were covered in blood, and they were picking them up enthusiastically. Scylla Kingdom's capital, Imperial Palace. The king of Scylla Kingdom and the civil and military officials of the Imperial Court were all worried. From time to time, they would look at the entrance of the main hall. No one spoke, and no one made a sound. If it was in the past, the king of Scylla Kingdom and the civil and military officials in the main hall would have already sat at home or gone to some elegant brothel. But now, whether it was the king of Scylla Kingdom or the civil and military officials of the Imperial Court, they did not have such thoughts. Why hasn't there been any news from the front line? The king of Scylla Kingdom, who was sitting on the dragon throne, withdrew his gaze that had been looking at the entrance of the palace for the umpteenth time. Then, he looked at the civil and military officials of Scylla Kingdom who had been standing in the main hall for a long time and asked anxiously. After the king of Scylla Kingdom heard that Yi-chan had destroyed 2 countries in a row, he directly ignored the civil and military officials of the Imperial Court and submitted to Yi-chan. Unfortunately, Yi-chan did not pay attention to him at all. Although the king of Scylla Kingdom was very angry when he realized this, he was more afraid and terrified. In order to prevent Scylla Kingdom from being destroyed like Dongzhou in India, and for his own life, the king of Scylla Kingdom finally made the decision to send an envoy to the Great Han Dynasty and submit to the emperor of the Great Han Dynasty, Lu Han. Unfortunately, the heavens didn't go according to his wishes. The envoys he sent out were blocked by the army of players who were attacking the Scylla Kingdom. In the end, they didn't succeed in going to the Scylla Kingdom. Realizing this, the king of Scylla Kingdom immediately mobilized a large number of troops and gathered the players of Scylla Kingdom to go to the border. As for the purpose, one was to resist the attack of the Great Han Dynasty's player army, and the other was to try to open a path to the Great Han Dynasty. He wanted the Scylla Kingdom's envoy to bring the letter of credence to the Luoyang Imperial Palace to meet Lu Hong. Then, he wanted to convey to Lu Hong that Scylla Kingdom was willing to submit and become a vassal state of the Great Han Dynasty. However, it had been several hours since he made these decisions, and there was not a single piece of news from the front line. How could the king of Scylla Kingdom still sit still? As soon as the king of Scylla Kingdom finished speaking, all the civil and military officials of the Imperial Court looked at each other in confusion. They also wanted to know why there was no news yet. They also wanted to know what had happened at the front line, but no one told them. Trash. All of you are trash. The king of Scylla Kingdom shouted angrily, followed by the silence of all the civil and military officials of the Imperial Court. Your Majesty, let's wait a little longer. A war involving tens of millions of people won't end so quickly. When the Prime Minister of Scylla Kingdom heard this, he sighed, then stepped out and bowed. When the king of Scylla Kingdom heard this, his face immediately darkened, and then he shouted sternly, "What end is it going to end so quickly? What do you mean it won't end so soon? King Yu of the Han Dynasty used less than a day to wipe out the Dongzhou Kingdom, India, and the Polar Bear Kingdom. Tell me, how many people are there in my security forces and mutants in these 3 countries?" When the Prime Minister of Scylla Kingdom heard this, he sighed again and said, "Your Majesty, Yu of Gojoseon is Yu of Gojoseon, and the Great Han Dynasty's players are the Great Han Dynasty's players. The 2 cannot be compared." When the king of Scylla Kingdom heard this, his face became even uglier. "What I want is information. How many hours has it been? The people sent to Floating Cloud City to send news back at any time have been sent one after another. There are already more than 100 of them, but up until now, not a single one of them has sent news back. Tell me, why is this so?" As soon as the king of Scylla Kingdom finished speaking with a ferocious expression, a messenger suddenly ran over and bowed loudly. Reporting to the king, the players of Scylla Kingdom have all rebelled. Chapter 978. As soon as the messenger's words fell, the king of Scylla Kingdom was stunned, and the civil and military officials of Scylla Kingdom were instantly in an uproar. How is this possible? Why would they rebel for no reason? A general of Scylla Kingdom said with a face of disbelief. When a civil official of Scylla Kingdom heard this, his face immediately darkened, and then he said fiercely, "Do they need a reason to rebel? Not to mention that the ones who rebel are the Inhumans, so they don't need a reason. These damned Inhumans were originally undisciplined and uneducated. They were all arrogant and arrogant. I had long felt that they would rebel sooner or later. Look, they've really rebelled. Now is not the time to discuss why the Inhumans are rebelling, but how to suppress them." When the general of Scylla Kingdom heard this, he coldly snorted and then shouted. As soon as the words of the general of Scylla Kingdom fell, the civil and military officials of Scylla Kingdom immediately quieted down. The king of Scylla Kingdom, who was sitting on the dragon throne, also came back to his senses at this moment. Then, with a tongue, he stood up and shouted sternly, "Great general, send out your troops and wipe out all the mutants. In addition, announce to the world that all the Inhumans of Scylla Kingdom will be demoted to sinners. Everyone can kill them." At this moment, the king of Scylla Kingdom was completely enraged. Originally, the king of Scylla Kingdom was afraid because the Inhuman army of the Great Han Kingdom had blocked all the passages and the envoys were unable to go to the Great Han Kingdom. Now, the Inhumans of Scylla Kingdom actually dared to jump out at this time and rebel against him. How could he not be angry? As soon as the king of Scylla Kingdom finished speaking, the system prompt immediately sounded in the ears of all the players of Scylla Kingdom. "Ding! You have been designated as a sinner. Once you die, your level will return to 0. The person who kills you will receive 10 times the experience reward." As soon as the system prompt ended, the players of Scylla Kingdom, who were wantonly killing the natives of Scylla Kingdom in the capital of Scylla Kingdom, were all stunned. Then one by one they exploded. Mother Asterisker, these damn natives. They really designated us as sinners. Mother Asterisker. Luckily, we took action and slaughtered all the spies sent out by that damn native. Otherwise, this dog's hit native king will definitely surrender when he hears that Yichun is here. Once Yichun accepts, we will be attacked by these damn natives and Yichun. That's right. What the F***CK? That bastard native king didn't even dare to fight. He was so scared that he wanted to submit to Yichun just because he heard the news. He's simply a disgrace to the Republic of Korea. Bullshit. Sinner. I have become a sinner. F***CK. After being killed, my level will be reset to 0. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have listened to them and participated in the rebellion. Idiot. Think about what happened to millions of our compatriots. Those damn natives don't treat us as humans at all. If we don't listen to their orders, they punish us and label us as sinners. Do you want to continue working for the natives? Become their lackey? You idiot, put away your ignorant and selfish thoughts and follow us to kill the natives. Moreover, it's too late for you to regret now. You have already become a sinner. After being killed, your level will be reset to 0. Mother Asterisker, continue to kill. Kill our way to the palace and kill that damn native king. This way, the Republic of Korea will be controlled by us players. By then, the punishment of the sinners will naturally be gone. That's right. Continue to kill. Don't be afraid. The Republic of Korea can only be controlled by us players and can only be saved by us players. Kill. The players of Scylla Country in the capital of Scylla Country spoke one after another. Then, they picked up their weapons and rushed toward the palace of Scylla Country in a frenzy. Reincarnation Immortal City, Lord's Mansion. Because his army had split up to attack Scylla Country, Yichun, who had covered the entire Scylla Country with his divine sense, saw the chaos in the capital of Scylla Country, and his eyes lit up. Mother Asterisker, I was still thinking about how to get another batch of sinners. I didn't expect the king of Scylla country to be so cooperative and turn all the players of Scylla country into sinners. This is great. My soldiers who have yet to advance to saint level will probably all advance to saint level after slaughtering all the players of Scylla kingdom. Yi Zichen thought, not bad, not bad. Thinking of this, Yichen couldn't help but smile. Within Scylla country, the army of Reincarnation Immortal City had split up to sweep through the Scylla country's territory. Along the way, they had conquered many cities and created many bloody cities. During this period, no matter how the native army of Scylla country resisted, how desperately they fought, how they spared their lives, or how they begged to surrender, it was useless. No matter who it was, as long as they encountered the army of Reincarnation Immortal City, there was only one outcome, and that was death. As the army of Reincarnation Immortal City continued to fight and conquer, the bloody aura of the army of Reincarnation Immortal City became stronger and stronger. As for the natives of Scylla country, they gradually gave up resisting and fought desperately for the teleportation portal. Then, they used the teleportation portal to teleport toward the capital of Scylla country. Capital of Scylla country. Deafening battle cries and the sound of weapons clashing could be heard constantly. The players of Scylla country were like madmen, desperately killing all the natives of Scylla country. No matter if they were commoners or nobles, as long as they were natives, regardless of age, they were all killed by the players of Scylla country. Just as the players of Scylla country were crazily killing the natives of Scylla country, the great general of Scylla country mobilized a large number of defense forces and began to attack the players of Scylla country. In the beginning, the great general of Scylla country was still able to reap the lives of many Scylla country players. But soon, his attack became a decoration. This was because the Scylla country players who were killed and turned into level 0 Scylla country players took the initiative to become meat shields after resurrecting. And this also caused the attacks of the native army of Scylla country to become useless. At this moment, the horror of the players was reflected. There was no end to killing, no end to dying. Noticing this, the Scylla kingdom's general's originally cold face immediately changed color. As time passed, the Scylla country's player army advanced towards the palace faster and faster, more and more ruthless. Just as the players and the natives were killing each other in the capital of Scylla country, a noble of Scylla country used the teleportation circle to teleport to the Scylla country palace. Then, he hurriedly ran towards the palace hall. At this moment, it was already night. The oil lamps in the palace hall of Scylla country were already lit. Outside the palace hall, hundreds of burning braziers were lit up. The noble of Scylla country who was running towards the palace hall was quickly discovered and brought to the palace hall. Palace hall. Looking at the pale-faced noble of Scylla country, the king of Scylla country's gloomy face sank again. In the next second, the king of Scylla country did not wait for the noble of Scylla country to speak and directly asked with a livid face, "The Inhumans in the city that you are in charge of have also rebelled, right?" The Inhumans rebelled? When the noble of Scylla country heard this, he was first stunned. Then, he shook his head and said, "King, no, it's not the Inhumans who rebelled. It's Prince Yu of Han who is attacking what?" When the king of Scylla country heard this, his eyes suddenly shrank, and then he shouted in a trembling voice. As soon as the king of Scylla country's exclamation fell, all the civil and military officials in the court could not help but shiver. At this moment, tension, fear, and anxiety exploded in the hall. Chapter 979. How could it be so fast? Didn't Yi Chun just destroy the Polar Bear Empire? Why did he come to our Scylla kingdom in the blink of an eye? One of the Scylla kingdom's generals swallowed his saliva with a gulp and said with a dumbfounded and panicked expression, "Who knows? Damn it, he came so quickly, but he didn't accept the submission of our Scylla kingdom. Is he here to destroy our Scylla kingdom?" A civil official of Scylla kingdom stammered. It should be," a fat man said with a panicked expression. Just as the civil and military officials of Scylla kingdom were talking among themselves, the king of Scylla kingdom suddenly regained his calm. In the next second, the king of Scylla Kingdom calmly glanced at the civil and military officials of the court. Then, he looked at the maid in the hall and said, "Go and prepare the food. Make it as sumptuous as possible. I want to drink with all the civil and military officials of the court." "Yes, yes, king." When a maid heard the king's abnormal words, she was stunned and hurriedly bowed. When the civil and military officials of Scylla Kingdom heard this, they all quieted down. In the next second, a civil official of Scylla Kingdom stepped out of the ranks and bowed to the king of Scylla Kingdom. "King, why don't you hurry up and discuss countermeasures now? Why do you have to have dinner?" "Countermeasures? Can you think of one?" "I can't think of one." When the king of Scylla Kingdom heard this, he looked at the civil official expressionlessly and said, "King, Yichen hasn't reached the capital of Scylla Kingdom yet. We still have a chance." When a general of Scylla Kingdom heard this, his heart couldn't help but skip a beat. He hurriedly stepped out of the ranks and bowed. "That's right, king. Things haven't reached the dead end yet. King, you mustn't give up. King, please reconsider." The civil and military officials of Scylla Kingdom advised the king of Scylla Kingdom one after another because they could hear the meaning of suicide from the king's words. If it was any other time when the king of Scylla Kingdom committed suicide, they would be shocked and in disbelief. They would even be so sad that they would cry bitterly. However, this was not a normal time. At this very moment, the king of the underworld, Yi Chun, was leading an army to attack the Scylla Kingdom. Soon, he would reach the capital of the Scylla Kingdom. If the king of the underworld were to commit suicide at this time, then the last chance of survival for the officials and generals of the underworld would vanish like smoke. This was not a joke. After all, Yi Chun came to Scylla Kingdom to destroy the kingdom. It was impossible for him to let the king of Scylla Kingdom continue to live. If the king of Scylla Kingdom committed suicide, Scylla Kingdom would naturally be destroyed. However, if that was the case, how would the civil and military officials of the imperial court be able to present the king to Yi Chun? Offer the corpse of the king of Scylla Kingdom? What kind of joke was this? What if Yi Chun thought it was fake? How would they explain that? He insisted that this was the corpse of the king of Scylla Country. This was even more nonsense. If they did so, they would definitely be killed by Yi Chun. Therefore, if they wanted to offer the king of Scylla Kingdom to Yi Chun, they could only offer him a living one, not a dead one. This was what all the civil and military officials of Scylla Kingdom were thinking at this moment. It was precisely because of this thought that all the civil and military officials of Scylla Kingdom hurriedly tried to persuade the king of Scylla Kingdom to commit suicide when they realized that the king of Scylla Kingdom wanted to commit suicide. What for the king? What for Scylla Kingdom? To the civil and military officials of Scylla Kingdom in the main hall, it didn't exist at all. To be more precise, they wanted the king of Scylla Kingdom to continue living. Then, they could wait for Yi Chun to attack the capital of Scylla Kingdom and hand the king of Scylla Kingdom to Yi Chun. In this way, even if Scylla Kingdom was destroyed, the civil and military officials of Scylla Kingdom would have a chance to survive. Hearing the advice of the civil and military officials, the king of Scylla Kingdom's face instantly turned pale. The king of Scylla Kingdom wasn't stupid. He could tell the meaning behind the words of the civil and military officials. After a short silence, the king of Scylla Kingdom regained his composure. After glancing at the dark corner of the main hall, he looked at the civil and military officials of the court and said, "Let's not talk about countermeasures. To deal with Yi Chun, any countermeasures are useless. This Gu has already seen through this. However, this Gu does not wish to die as a hungry ghost. Furthermore, this Gu wishes to see the king of Han, the one who caused the entire world to tremble before I die." "Yes, king." When the civil and military officials of the court heard this, they all looked at each other. Then, they all looked at the king of Scylla Kingdom and bowed. Not long after, the dishes were served. The king of Scylla Kingdom didn't say a word as he ate the delicacies in front of him. The civil and military officials of Scylla Kingdom did the same. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the king of Scylla Kingdom suddenly raised his head to look at the civil and military officials of the court and said indifferently, "Ever since I ascended the throne, I have often thought about how to make Silla Kingdom the strongest and richest country. In order to achieve this goal, I learned from Emperor Wu of Han and recruited talents. I even broke the rules to promote them. As soon as the king of Silla Kingdom finished speaking, at least half of the civil and military officials of the court lowered their heads at the same time. When the king of Silla Kingdom saw this, he smiled slightly and continued, I don't want the nobles of Silla Kingdom to have no privileges. Therefore, even though I know that many nobles have committed crimes that are enough to wipe out their families, I didn't eliminate them because they didn't betray Silla Kingdom and me. When the king of Silla Kingdom said this, the remaining half of the civil and military officials lowered their heads with complicated expressions. When the king of Silla Kingdom saw this, he smiled again and said, In fact, I do have the intention to die, but I don't want to die in a cowardly manner. As soon as the king of Silla Kingdom finished speaking, all the civil and military officials in the imperial court were stunned. Just as everyone was confused, a civil official suddenly covered his chest and spat out a large mouthful of black blood with a poo sound. You poisoned the food. As soon as the civil official finished speaking, he fell onto the table in front of him with a bang. Crash, crash. Several sounds were heard. The dishes that looked incomparably exquisite fell to the ground. Tung, tung, tung. Over 100 sounds were heard, followed by a series of blood spurting out. Puff, puff, puff. You're so ruthless, you're so vicious, I can't accept this. Give me the antidote, my lord. I didn't betray you. All the civil and military officials of the court spoke one after another. Then, one by one, they fell to the ground and died on the spot. When the king of Silla Kingdom saw this, he stood up expressionlessly. Then, he looked in the darkness and said, You've done well. After I die in battle, remember to burn the palace to the ground and not leave a single cent for Yichun. As soon as the king of Silla Kingdom finished speaking, 100 men in black walked out from the shadows in the corner of the hall. Then they bowed to the king of Silla Kingdom and said, Yes, my lord. Chapter 980. When the king of Silla Kingdom heard this, he nodded and walked out of the hall. Not long after, screams could be heard from the imperial harem of Silla Kingdom. There were also continuous cries, as well as puzzled inquiries. Father, why? Why do you want to kill me? Poochie. Your Majesty, why do you want to kill me? Kacha. No, don't kill me, father. Poochie. The wife and children of the king of Silla Kingdom were killed one by the king of Silla Kingdom. When the last person was killed by the king of Silla Kingdom, the king of Silla Kingdom was already covered in blood. Outside the capital of Silla Kingdom, in the sky, the Reincarnation Immortal Island carried the Reincarnation Immortal City in the City Lord's mansion. Releasing his divine sense, he saw the king of Silla Kingdom go from shock to fear, from fear to calmness, and finally from calmness to madness. During this process, Yichun looked indifferently at the king of Silla Kingdom, who was covered in blood in the palace of Silla Kingdom. Then, he looked at the 100 black-clothed men who had received the order and once again hid in the darkness. He didn't expect that the king of Silla Kingdom actually had a group of ninjas under him. Ninja was a unique profession in the East Continent. They were good at assassination and spying. Previously, when Yichun attacked the East Continent, he had encountered ninjas. Unfortunately, these ninjas couldn't exert any power in front of the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City. They were directly taken away in one wave, and they didn't even have the chance to show their faces. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that the 100 natives hidden in the palace of Silla Kingdom seemed to be sent by the king of Silla Kingdom to the East Continent to secretly learn ninjutsu and then return. They gave Yichun the feeling that they were Japanese from the East Continent. It couldn't be helped. These 100 black-clothed men were all very short. Moreover, no matter how hard they tried to hide, they couldn't hide the unique, wretched temperament of the East Continent. It was hard for Yichun not to think so. A centipede dies, but doesn't fall down, whether you are or not. You have to die today. It doesn't matter if these people are the East Continent's plot against the Silla Kingdom's king, for secretly learning their ninjutsu, or the seeds that the East Continent secretly left for the East Continent. It doesn't matter to Yi Chun. More importantly, Yi Chun would not let the East Continent off the hook and leave the possibility of reviving the country. After all, Yi Chun had gone overseas to fight for the heaven and earth providence. If the destroyed East Continent was revived, then the heaven and earth providence that Yi Chun had stolen from the East Continent would be greatly lost. This was not what Yi Chun wanted to see. Thinking of this, Yi Chun raised his right hand, and a huge amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy instantly surged crazily. Then, it gathered into a huge hand that covered the sky above the palace of Silla Kingdom. At this moment, the entire capital of Silla Kingdom changed from night to day. Silla Country Palace. The king of Silla Kingdom, who had just killed his relatives, was suddenly stunned. Then, he subconsciously raised his head to look. In the next second, the king of Silla Kingdom was stunned on the spot. This is a hand. The king of Silla Kingdom could not understand. His face was filled with confusion because he had never seen such a huge hand. Moreover, its body was shining with white light, instantly illuminating the night. Just as the king of Silla Kingdom was dumbfounded, the natives of Silla Kingdom and the player army that were fighting each other in the capital of Silla Kingdom stopped at the same time. Then, they raised their heads to look at the sky. The huge hand that covered the sky illuminated the entire capital of Silla Kingdom. That's a hand? Whose hand is it? Is it a celestial? A native of Silla Kingdom swallowed his saliva and asked in a trembling voice. I don't know, but I feel that it should be a soldier of Silla Kingdom stammered. Are the celestial beings going to punish us? No, it can't be. The native soldiers of Silla Kingdom were discussing in shock. The players of Silla Kingdom were no exception. Damn it, spells. That must be spells. Eastern spells. Do you think that Yi Chun has arrived at the capital? I think so. Damn it, we haven't taken down the palace yet. Why is Yi Chun here? That's not the key. The key is that Yi Chun knows spells, and it looks very powerful. Damn it, if that's the case, how are we going to fight against Yi Chun? Just as the players of Silla Kingdom were discussing in panic because of the sudden appearance of the huge palm that covered the sky and illuminated the entire capital of Silla Kingdom, the leader of the Silla Kingdom players who organized this player rebellion had a sullen expression. Then he shouted sternly, "What are you afraid of? You don't have to die if you're afraid. You think you can fight against Yi Chun just because you're afraid? Let me tell you, it's useless. No matter what you think, Yi Chun won't let us go. The Eastern players won't let us go either. Think about what the Republic of Korea did and said before the meteor fell. Then consider what you should do." As soon as the leader of the Silla Kingdom players finished speaking, the players of Silla Kingdom were all stunned. Then their faces turned pale. Damn it, if I knew this would happen, I would have specially created a post to criticize the East. You're nothing. You're nothing. Don't forget, when the leader of the Silla Kingdom players saw this, he immediately shouted, "Now you know why Yi Chun wants to destroy the East. I can tell you clearly that it's for revenge." When the leader of the Silla Kingdom players said this, the players of Silla Kingdom, who were already pale, became even paler, because they were reminded of the war decades ago. At that time, their Silla Kingdom had also attacked the East. Although they didn't gain any advantage, they still attacked. The leader of the Silla Kingdom players glanced at the players of Silla Kingdom and then shouted. Before the meteor fell, Yi Chun was just an ordinary person. No matter how powerful he was, he couldn't completely kill us in the game world. Even if we were really defeated, we can still slowly rise because this is the game world. Chapter 981. As soon as the leader of the Silla players finished speaking, the fear of Yi Chun's powerful spell in the hearts of the Silla players instantly disappeared by more than half. At this moment, a Silla player suddenly raised his right hand and shouted with a ferocious expression, "Duh! Long live the Republic of Korea! Duh! Long live the Republic of Korea! Long live the Republic of Korea!" Waves of cheers instantly sounded from the mouths of the Scylla players. One wave after another, they soared into the sky. The natives of Scylla, who were opposing the Scylla players, looked at each other and were instantly dumbfounded. These mutants seem to be patriotic. Why should we kill them? They probably did something that angered the king. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been designated as sinners. I don't know if the mutants are patriotic or not. I only know to follow the orders of the general and the king. But if they're really patriotic, we still have to kill them. Isn't that a little bad? Just as the native soldiers of Scylla were discussing because of the slogans of the Scylla players, the general of Scylla's face darkened. Then he shouted angrily, "All of you shut up. Continue to attack." The Grand General of Scylla didn't know the origin of the giant hand that suddenly appeared in the sky. He also didn't know whether the giant hand that lit up the entire capital of Scylla country was an enemy or a friend to Scylla country. However, these didn't hinder the Grand General of Scylla country's decision. To the General of Scylla, even if the mutant players of Scylla were patriotic, it couldn't offset the fact that they had rebelled. To be more precise, the mutant players had rebelled. They were rebels, and they had to be eradicated. Otherwise, even if the giant hand in the sky didn't attack Scylla, Scylla would still be overthrown by the mutant players. And once the regime of Scylla fell into the hands of the mutant players, whether it was him or his family, they would suffer a devastating blow. This wasn't the situation that the general of Scylla wanted to see. Therefore, after he came back to his senses, he didn't hesitate to order the native soldiers of Scylla to continue attacking the mutant players of Scylla. As for whether the giant hand that suddenly appeared in the sky would really attack Scylla, it wasn't that the great general of Scylla hadn't thought about it, but it was useless to think about it because he had no ability to resist the giant hand that suddenly appeared in the sky. The great general of Scylla was well aware of this point. After all, the giant hand that suddenly appeared did not belong to the mortal world. How could a mortal resist it? However, this was not important. What was important was that he could not ignore the players of Shinlaw because of panic or fear. Otherwise, what would be left for him would be a complete dead end. As soon as the Scylla Kingdom's great general finished speaking, the Scylla Kingdom's native soldiers came back to their senses. Then, they aimed their weapons at the Scylla Kingdom's players and started attacking. Reincarnation Immortal City, Lord Mansion. Hearing the discussions of the Scylla players, Yi Chun, who was startled, looked at the Scylla players, who were once again fighting with the Scylla army, and coldly laughed. He didn't expect that these Scylla Kingdom's players, who were arrogant, and shameless, actually had self-awareness. They knew how many shameless things they had done in the past. However, these idiots only guessed part of my judgment correctly. I went abroad to fight mainly to destroy the country and snatch the fate of heaven and earth. As for revenge, I don't deny that I did have this intention, but it was just a side effect. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly widened. The right hand that he had just raised immediately slapped the air. Boom! The air above the imperial palace of Scylla Kingdom instantly shook, and then an earth-shaking explosion sounded. At the same time, the giant hand that lit up the entire imperial palace of Scylla Kingdom instantly slapped toward the imperial palace. Sensing this scene, the Scylla Kingdom's native soldiers and Scylla Kingdom's players stopped again and looked in the direction of the imperial palace at the same time. That giant hand has made its move, and its target is the imperial palace. Scylla Kingdom is finished. Damn it. It's definitely Yi Chen's doing. It must be him. There's no way to run. Imperial Palace of Scylla Kingdom. Seeing the giant hand slapping down, the king of Scylla Kingdom's face instantly turned pale. Then his face twisted. Why? I can't accept this. I can't accept this. I haven't seen Prince Yuhan yet. I haven't cursed him yet. Why don't you give me a chance? As soon as the king of Scylla Kingdom's words fell, the giant hand that covered the sky instantly slapped down on the imperial palace. Boom! An earth-shaking explosion instantly sounded. Then, the magnificent imperial palace of Scylla Kingdom, which was just a moment ago, directly turned into nothingness. At this moment, A large amount of smoke and dust rose from the place where the imperial palace disappeared. Then, it turned into a violent yellow-gray wave of air that rolled in all directions. The native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom who were fighting on the streets of Scylla Kingdom's capital, as well as the players of Scylla Kingdom, couldn't help but shiver when they saw this. At this moment, an emotion called fear involuntarily rose in everyone's hearts. Even the players who had just lost most of their fear were the same. What was domineering? This was it. What was powerful? This was it. What was invincible? This was it. Destroying an imperial palace with a single strike. If this were to hit them, no one would be able to survive. This was what the natives and players of Scylla Kingdom were thinking at this moment. It was also because of this reason that the native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom began to tremble in fear. As for the players of Scylla Kingdom, they once again lost the courage to fight against each other. The natives of Scylla Kingdom didn't know who the giant hand that covered the sky came from. But how could the players of Scylla Kingdom not know? It was also because they knew that they once again felt boundless fear towards Yichun. At the location of the native army of Scylla Kingdom, the gods are angry. The gods are punishing our Scylla Kingdom. How could this be? I don't want to die. Sob, sob, sob. After a series of frightened shouts, the sound of people kneeling on the ground rang out in waves. God, please spare me. I beg you, spare me. I don't want to be a soldier anymore. I really don't want to be a soldier anymore. Respected gods, please don't be angry. Don't kill me. The native soldiers of Scylla Kingdom collapsed to the point of kneeling and begging for mercy because of Yi Chen's terrifying attack. The players of Scylla Kingdom who were fighting against them weren't in a good mood either. This was because they had discovered an extremely cruel fact. That was, they couldn't fight against Yi Chen at all. Even if they gathered the strength of all the players of Scylla Kingdom, they wouldn't be able to fight against Yi Chen. To be more precise, all the players in Scylla Country were ants to Yi Chen. Moreover, they were ants that he could casually slap to death. Chapter 982. Damn it. Why is Yi Chen's spell power so strong? What should we do? We can't fight against Yi Chen at all. I don't know. While the Scylla Kingdom players were discussing helplessly because of the ants' feeling of helplessness, the leader of the Scylla Kingdom players, who organized a rebellion, looked at the Scylla Kingdom palace in horror. Then, he looked at the Scylla Kingdom players and shouted, "Don't blame me for being too weak. This is the game world. I'll say it again. This is the game world. You won't really die after you die. Yi Chen is powerful, but so what? We, the people of the Republic of Korea, are not afraid of anything. Even if we are killed to level 0, we can still train back." When the leader of the players of Scylla said this, he paused for a moment. Then, he circulated his energy in his dantian and roared, Long live the Republic of Korea? The people of the Republic of Korea are not afraid." As soon as the leader of the players of Scylla said this, the players of Scylla who were once again occupied by fear were once again hot-blooded, and then they had great courage. Long live the Republic of Korea. We are a nation that can never be conquered. We are not afraid of anything. Yes, there's nothing to be afraid of. No matter how strong Yi Chen is, he's still a human. Even if we are defeated in the end, we can still make a comeback. That's right. Even if we are defeated, we can still make a comeback. So we have to be brave. We can't embarrass the Republic of Korea. The Republic of Korea will never be conquered. Roars sounded from the mouths of the players of Scylla, and then soared into the sky. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's Mansion. Looking at the crazy expressions of the players of Scylla, who were once again awesome, Yi Chen curled his lips in disdain. Ants are always ants. Want to make a comeback was wishful thinking. The real world didn't only have human players. Other than human players, there were also a terrifying number of demons in the real world. There were quite a number of them. There were low intelligence but powerful monsters, hidden insects that could easily take people's lives, and so on. With these existences, after death, the Scylla players, whose levels would be directly reset to 0, would not be able to survive in the real world even if they were united. After all, it was no longer the time when the game had just begun and all the non-human beings in the world were not strong. Just as Yi-chun thought up to this point, the system prompt suddenly sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chun for successfully killing the king of Silla Country. Special reward to player Yi-chun. Innate attribute points x 1000. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chun for successfully obtaining 80% of Silla Nation's heaven and earth fate. As soon as the system notification ended, Yi-chun furrowed his brows. 80% of the providence of heaven and earth. After killing the king of Silla Kingdom, he should have obtained at least 90% of the heaven and earth providence, but he only obtained 80%. Could it be that there was some special person in Silla Country? That should be it. It was no wonder that Yi-chun thought so. After all, killing the king of Silla Country was equivalent to destroying the country. Under such circumstances, Yi-chun should be able to obtain more than 90% of Silla Country's providence. The rest that he did not obtain was because the capital of Silla Country had not been broken through yet. And now, Yi-chun had only obtained 80% of Silla Country's providence. If there was no special person who occupied a portion of Silla Country's providence, such a situation would not have happened. Interesting, I didn't expect that there would be a special person in a small country like Silla Country. Just as Yi-chun thought up to this point, the world announcement suddenly sounded. Ding! Player Yi-chun has successfully killed the king of Silla Country. Special reward to player Yi-chun. Innate attribute points x 1000. Ding! Silla Country's player is unable to obtain the attribute buff of Dongming Holy King because of his status as a sinner. The world announcement was repeated 3 times in a row, instantly exploding the entire world channel. Damn! Yi-chun has just attacked Silla Country. It hasn't been long since he killed the king of Silla Country. What's there to be surprised about? Don't forget, Yi-chun is the #1 player in the East and the strongest player in the world. It didn't take long for him to destroy Dongzhou Country. How long can it take to destroy Silla Country? He hasn't destroyed Silla Country yet. Didn't you hear the world announcement? It didn't say anything about Silla Country being destroyed. What's going on? The king of Silla Country has been destroyed. Why hasn't Silla Country been destroyed yet? I guess Silla Country still has some Korean highness or Korean princess. If they're not dead, Silla Country can't be considered destroyed. Even if it's not destroyed, it won't last long. With Yu of Gojoseon around, there's no way Silla Country can't be destroyed. That's what I think too. I say, didn't you see the main point of the world announcement this time? Dongming Holy King, damn, who the hell is he? The Eastern players kept talking and commenting on the world channel. As for the Silla Country players, they were collectively stunned for a while. When the Silla Country players came back to their senses, they exclaimed and exploded the world channel again. Dongming Holy King. It's Dongming Holy King. Sob sob sob. Our Silla Country's God actually exists. That's great. That's great. God has treated our Silla Country well. It's actually Dongming Holy King. Now I want to see how Yi-chun can continue to be so arrogant. Ha ha. Our Silla Country is the strongest country in the world. There's no other country. This is great. With Dongming Holy King, the time for our Silla Country to counterattack the Great Han Empire has come. No. Think carefully. We can't enjoy the buffs of Dongming Holy King's attributes. Damn it. What's the meaning of this? Is Dongming Holy King going to abandon us? How can this be? We are obviously the citizens of the Republic of Korea. How can Dongming Holy King abandon us? Damn it, I knew it. I shouldn't have participated in this rebellion. If I didn't, I wouldn't have been labeled as a sinner. This way, Dongming Holy King will treat me as a citizen of Silla Country. I can enjoy the buffs of Dongming Holy King's attributes. Just as the players from Silla were constantly spamming the screen, the players from the East who had been watching for a while burst into laughter. Haha, what Dongming Holy King? Let me tell you, he's just a glorified existence. Even if he's strong, he's not much stronger than us. So, as long as your Dongming Holy King comes out, the end of Silla Country is destined. That's right. Even if Dongming Holy King didn't abandon you, you will still be killed by Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Hee hee. Let me give you another piece of news for free. Do you know if the Divine Light God is still alive? Let me tell you, the right hand of the Divine Light God was swallowed by Yi Chun. Just as the world channel was being flooded with messages, a young man on a mysterious black warhorse with a black longbow on his back suddenly rushed out from the ruins of the palace. Chapter 983. As soon as the young man riding the black warhorse appeared, the turbulent airwaves instantly calmed down. The Scylla native soldiers and Scylla players who noticed this were all stunned. Then, they all looked at the young man who walked out of the palace ruins. Who is he? He was attacked by the giant hand, but he's actually safe and sound. A Scylla native soldier looked at the young man riding the black warhorse and said with a blank face, I don't know, but looking at his dressing, it seems to be our Scylla uniform. A thin Scylla native soldier said with a blank face. Just as the soldiers of Scylla were discussing the sudden appearance of the young man, the players of Scylla gave up on fighting back against the merciless mockery of the Eastern players. Then, they looked at each other with a dumbfounded expression. Who is he? How did he survive Yi Chen's attack? Looking at his appearance, he shouldn't be a player. He looks more like a native of Scylla. Damn, it can't be. If he's a native, then wouldn't we, the players, be in trouble? He's a native that even Yi Chun couldn't kill. The Scylla native players spoke one after another about the shock in their hearts. Then, they saw the expressions of the Scylla native players become more and more ugly. They couldn't help but have ugly expressions. One had to know that they were sinners now, and the ones who weren't killed by Yi Chun were natives. Moreover, they were powerful natives. Such an existence would definitely attack the players of Scylla country. How could such a result make the sinners of the Scylla country players happy? Reincarnation Immortal City, Lord's Mansion. Yi Chen's divine sense enveloped the capital of Scylla. He glanced at the young man who suddenly walked out of the palace ruins and was amused. Damn, I was wondering why my divine sense couldn't detect the special existence of Scylla. It turned out that he was hiding in the secret realm under the palace of Scylla. After Yi Chun sensed that there was a special character in Scylla, he immediately used his divine sense to investigate Scylla. Unfortunately, he couldn't find a location of the special character in Scylla. Now, this special character of Scylla took the initiative to jump out, saving Yi Chun a lot of trouble. This guy should be the Dongming Saint King of Scylla. He was just a mortal evolution state, but he was actually glorified as a god. What a joke. Thinking about this, Yi Chun curled his lips in disdain. At this moment, Dongming Saint King, who rode out of the palace ruins of the capital of Scylla, glanced at the native army of Scylla, and then at the player army of Scylla. The Scylla native players who were stared at Dongming Saint King's pupils shrank. At this moment, all the Scylla native players, without exception, felt a fear that came from the depths of their souls. This feeling appeared out of nowhere and was deeply imprinted in the souls of all the Scylla native players. Noticing this, the Scylla native players were even more dumbfounded. At this moment, Dongming Saint King, who was riding a black warhorse, pulled out a long sword from his waist and raised it high. You all have the blood of Scylla. Although you have made mistakes, your blood is not fake. Therefore, I pardon your crimes and restore your identity as a citizen of Scylla. As soon as Dongming Saint King finished speaking, the long sword he raised up suddenly shone with a golden light. In the reincarnation Immortal City, Yi Chun, who was in the City Lord's mansion, saw this and his eyes widened. If you want to pardon the Scylla native players, you have to see if I agree or not. Thinking about this, Yi Chun grabbed at the void with his right hand without hesitation. Then, Yi Chun's right hand reached into the void and disappeared. At the same time, on the streets of the capital city of Scylla, the space next to Dongming Saint King's long sword suddenly twisted. Then, Yi Chun's right hand suddenly reached out and grabbed the long sword that suddenly shone with a golden light. When Dongming Saint King saw this, he was stunned. Then his eyes shrank. Who are you? Dongming Saint King was at the mortal evolution state. Although due to the restrictions of the game rules, He could not ascend like Zwasi, Nanhua Old Immortal, UG, and the others. However, this did not mean that Dongming Saint King did not know that it was convenient for cultivation. To be more precise, at this moment, Dongming Sage King had already noticed that Yi Chun, who had suddenly attacked, was extremely powerful. He had even guessed that Yi Chun was the one who had just attacked the Silla Kingdom Palace. It was also because of this that Dongming Saint King was so nervous. Even his voice was trembling. As soon as Dongming Saint King finished speaking, Yi Chen's right hand that was holding Dongming Saint King's long sword suddenly tightened. Bang! A loud sound was heard. Then, the long sword in Dongming Saint King's right hand instantly exploded and turned into metal shards that filled the sky. At the same time, the golden light emitted by Dongming Saint King's long sword disappeared without a trace. This series of changes made the Silla players, who were already dumbfounded, even more dumbfounded. What the F***CK is going on? This native said that he would pardon us? Suddenly, a hand appeared and crushed this native's long sword. How the F***CK would I know? Damn it, I don't understand at all. Do you guys think that this native, could he be Dongming Saint King? No way. How can Dongming Saint King be so young? I think so. Otherwise, why would he say that he would pardon us and remove our identity as sinners? Just as the Silla players were discussing amongst themselves, the Grand General of the Silla country suddenly knelt on the ground and bowed to the young man with a fanatical expression. Greetings, Your Excellency Dongming Saint King. As soon as the words of the Silla Kingdom's native general fell, the native soldiers and players of Silla Kingdom were all stunned. Then, with a crash, they all knelt on the ground. Greetings, Your Excellency Dongming Saint King. At this moment, whether it was the Silla Country natives or the Silla Country players, they all had a feeling of excitement and agitation. That was because Silla Country was saved. Of course, this was what the Silla Country natives and the Silla Country players thought. After all, Dongming Saint King was an omnipotent god in their hearts. With Dongming Saint King around, no matter how powerful Yi Chun was, he would not be able to destroy Silla Country. Just as the Silla Country natives and the Silla Country players were inexplicably excited because of Dongming Saint King's identity, Dongming Saint King's face suddenly turned pale. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.